And good morning. We welcome you to the Meadowcreek Arena in Norcross, Georgia, here home of day 2 of the 2018 5-bar Showdown. Here, Brian Rushing here with you. So glad that you could join us here with the doctor this morning, Dr. Patrick Anderson. Dr. Anderson, we saw a lot of excitement in day 1. We go right into day 2. Briefly give me some of your thoughts and some of what it is that we may be seeing later on through the day.
Well, yesterday we saw James Matthews take the $1,500 prize in the Superman. That's the combined 5-bar Showdown, doing the weightlifting 2 lifts as well as the 3 power lifts. Today we're going to get to see the Superwoman competition. And we also got to see Dennis Cornelius break the 1,000-kilo barrier for the first time in his powerlifting career in USA Powerlifting, 22:04. And Dennis was not happy with just 22:04. He's coming back today and putting a gear on, doing a whole nother competition. So history will be made today. Brian.
A back-to-back day for Mr. Cornelius. We'll see how he responds. We're already on platform number 3. Christy Llewellyn was white-lighted for a lift at 45. Rebecca Thomas now will attempt her first squat at 70 kilos.
Unfortunately, we can't quite see the lights, so we're going to see if we can get our camera maybe corrected, because we just need a little bit more height to be able to see.
Rebecca Thomas, the young lady out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, making the lift. As we'll start, of course, today with our squats, then go into bench press, and then wrap things up with our deadlift, our 3 disciplines. Of course, 2 platforms of powerlifting going on this morning, and then a single platform of weightlifting this morning, all part of the 5-bar Showdown. The 5 bars, essentially the combined 5 disciplines of both powerlifting and weightlifting here inside the Meadowcreek Arena. So we'll have Jamie Kofer to lift. Kofer trying to power up.
She got a little bit forward there, Brian, but was able to recover. That's something she'll have to work on for her second. Generally, if you get a little bit forward on your opener, doesn't always bode well. As the weight gets heavier, it tends to push you farther forward.
So we're just getting started with the action this morning, as we'll have 2 platforms going on of squats, as we'll have Gretchen Patsios to lift here in just a moment. Patsios out of Atlanta, Georgia. So we're just about ready to start turning the action over to platform 2. As we get that queued up and ready to go, we'll get to you to it in just a moment. It's over on platform number 3. This will be a lift of 85 kilos.
Brian, you'll notice here the high bar and the very narrow grip placement and very deep squat. That's more what would be traditionally an Olympic or a weightlifting squat, as opposed to the lower bar power squat.
So next we'll have Danielle Chapman, who will make a lift attempt at 97.5. And as we get through this morning, Dr. Anderson, one of the things that I would certainly ask is, you just talked about the high bar angle on the neck and the shoulder area. You talked about the narrow grip along the hands, some of the differences and some of the feel that it creates as opposed to going to a wide grip, so on and so forth, as we'll have Danielle Chapman, who apparently is going with a slightly wider grip. But we'll talk about that difference.
That's interesting, Brian, but she still has a high bar placement, so you're almost seeing bits and pieces of a variety of techniques. Traditionally, a power squat is a lower bar. That's clearly deep. So this is kind of a high bar squat, but with a wider grip.
Chapman out of Social Circle, Georgia, gets the 3 white lights. So she qualifies on that lift at 97.5, and that'll bring up Erin Burdett. We'll switch it over on to platform number 2 now, as we'll have Tiffany Choo making an attempt at 90 kilos. And that looked rather textbook.
And very narrow stance as well.
So for Choo, she's on the board. We'll take it back over to platform number 3 for Burdett. And if from an official's perspective here, Dr. Anderson, I would imagine the most telling thing in this squat primarily is going to be the angle of how far you're able to get down, and does it get to a low enough point at the bottom.
Yeah, definitely depth is the most common infraction in the squat by far, which would be the lifter not descending low enough where the top of the thigh at the hip joint has to go below the top of the knee.
Burdette qualifies with that lift. It was good. 3 white lights as we'll take it over to platform number 2 for Gabrielle Fundaro. Gabrielle Fundaro with her first lift of the morning.
And Brian, you'll notice several of the lifters that go very deep or below parallel significantly often come from a weightlifting background. In weightlifting, they're used to much deeper squats in order to recover in the bottom of the clean and jerk and the snatch.
Fundaro completes the lift. She'll put it on the rack. We'll see what the judges think. 2 out of 3 white lights there, so the lift will count.
I thought that was close on depth, so she probably got 1 red for depth. That was borderline.
Take it over to platform number 3 to Katie Felton. Felton making an attempt at 102.5.
Yeah, this is 225. It's essentially 2 plates if you're used to working out in the gym, so that's a very nice squat for Katie.
Young lady out of Smyrna, Georgia with 3 white lights, so she's on the board, and we'll go ahead and switch it immediately over to platform number 2 to Melissa Cederburg. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Dr. Anderson, but I would imagine for these ladies getting started, I mean, getting everything going, getting the motor started, this first lift is of utmost importance because you want a complete lift. You want to get as many white lights as you possibly can and get yourself a makeable start to your day.
Yeah, and I also think momentum, in my opinion, was always a big factor for my powerlifting and coaching other lifters is when you smoke your opener, it just seems to set you off on a good day. Whereas if your opening attempt is more challenging, then it seems to set you back. Of course, it also takes some of your energy away. So
sort of like putting that first tee shot right down the middle of the fairway.
That's a good point because, yeah, if you hit your first shot into the bunker or over off into the side, you're going to really put your day on a damper from the beginning, from the get-go. And so what happens for a lot of lifters is getting that first lift moving and getting it successful.
Dr. Anderson, you've been watching me play golf on the first tee, apparently. So we'll take it over to platform number 2. So we'll have Stacle Metcalfe come on for her attempt.
This will actually be her second attempt. She was successful in her opener at 115. Now that's going to be close on depth. Let's see what the judges say. Well,
not able to complete it.
Wasn't successful anyway.
We'll take it immediately over to platform number 3 to Nicole LaRue.
231 pound. That's a solid opener in the women's division. Let's see how she takes this.
Now, something that I don't necessarily know that we were able to catch on camera prior to going to her as she gets the 3 white lights, as instead of going underneath the bar, she came from in front of the bar and slid back to it, which I would imagine if that's the case, it's going to be a given that it's going to sit on the shoulders a little bit lower. Otherwise, you may as well just go underneath the bar from behind.
Yeah, and the part for that would be unique in coming from the front is most of us powerlifters build our tightness by coming underneath the bar and really almost squeezing your shoulders together. So it was a unique start position.
Catherine Valli now to attempt her second opportunity. She was green lighted at 50 or white lighted at 57.5. Her second attempt at 60 completed. We'll see what the judges think. 2 out of 3 white lights there, so she will get the lift to go.
Yeah, that could have been a depth call. That one was close as well.
So it looks like now the bar is ready, and we'll take it over to platform number 3, where it's going to be Alex Beasley. Beasley making an attempt at 110.
Yeah, this is the biggest opener in this flight. That's a good size opener, 242. Not even wearing any knee sleeves. Looking all the way down, that is definitely an unusual technique. Different lifters have different theories on that, but to see a lifter completely looking straight down is unusual.
So she gets 3 white lights in her opening salvo, so she's on the board at 110. Let's go ahead and take it over to number 2, where it's Madeline Hanson. Hanson missed on her first opportunity at 67.5, so she'll get a second opportunity here.
It appeared to be low enough. Let's see what the judges say.
2 out of 3 white lights, so she'll be in at 67.5. 15.5. And I would imagine, especially when it comes to that first squat, I know that in training and in practice you want to make sure that technically everything is exactly where it needs to be. But on the way down, especially on that first lift, I would imagine that just kind of feeling your way through to make sure that you've gotten just low enough without getting, for lack of a better term, too low.
Yeah, and that is a balance because you don't want to get red lights, but you're essentially wasting energy if you go too low. Now, there are some lifters that feel they get more momentum when they go lower because of the rebound effect. And as I said earlier, a lot of the lifters who come from a weightlifting background will tend to go a lot lower. I always preferred to just make it clear and then come right back up. No use wasting energy.
Platform number 3, Christy Llewellyn. She connected at 45 kilos. She'll try now at 60.
It's a pretty good sized jump there. 15 kilos when you're at the weight she's lifting.
So obviously, as she gets
2 to 1,
2 out of 3 reds there, so that lift does not count. We'll go ahead and try to get it quickly over to Tiffany Choo. Choo was able to connect at 90. We'll see what the judges think at 95, so she's good. And she's got 3 white lights. So we'll take it back over to platform number 3. We're coming up here in just a moment. We'll have Rebecca Thomas. Just getting things started this morning. Of course, the 5-bar showdown is part of the brainchild of Josh Rohr and Caleb Williams. As we'll take it over to platform number 2. It's Melissa Cederburg, who connected at 95, will get an opportunity at 100. Cederburg on the lift, still working, getting it up to the top. We'll see what happens with the judges. 3 white lights, so she's on the board. And that'll take us over to platform number 3, Rebecca Thomas, who connected at 70, having some difficulty and cannot complete at 80. So she'll maintain a score of 70 kilos as she'll go into her 3rd rotation. We'll take it over to platform number 2 now. So I have Jamie Kofer. I'm sorry, platform number 2 is Gabrielle Fundaro. Fundaro connected at 95, now I'm making an attempt at 102.5. Working at a pretty good clip here in this early going.
Yeah, you'll notice the female lifters, Brian, tend to be ready when the bar is called. The men will often take their full minute, but I always notice the female lifters tend to be ready when they're called. Meat moves quicker.
Puts it back on the rack. The judges say 3 white lights. So Fundaro's on the board with her 2nd successful attempt. So that'll bring up Jamie Kofer at 85, still working. Can't connect on that lift, so she'll be on the board at 80 with 1 lift remaining. As Fundaro, of course, we saw her just a moment ago on platform number 2. As we're already through 2 rotations over there on the 2nd platform flight of the squat discipline, as Stacy Metcalfe will be coming on here in just a moment. As you can see, Metcalfe just off in the distance to your right, as she'll get the call to engage the bar.
This is a comeback attempt, Brian, so she was unsuccessful on her 2nd. She's going to need this one to be able to add 5 kilos to her total.
She does have a qualifying score at 52.5, but certainly these 5 kilos do a tremendous amount of good as it relates to the long-term effect, and she's not going to be able to connect there, as she'll take 52.5 to the bench press.
Yeah, it's simple math, Brian. That 5 kilos is 5 kilos more she's going to have to pull on the deadlift to make up for that.
Patsios with her 2nd opportunity, going from 85 to 92.5, and nailed that. 3 white lights there.
Room to
spare. That's a good lift.
Yeah, she's got more in her.
As we get into this opening segment of today's session, I have Catherine Valli coming on. She is 2 for 2 already in the squat. 57.5, 60 is where she's connected, now making the jump of 5 kilos up to 65.
No knee sleeves, nothing on her knees, no knee wraps or knee sleeves. We've seen that a few times, but that's much less common. I think that lift will be good, Brian. She broke parallel.
She was able to power through pretty nicely, and that's going to be a good number to take with her. So you see Danielle Chapman over on platform number 3. 3 white lights there for Chapman. It's Chapman now at 107.5 as she connected there on that lift. So Madeline Hanson will make her third attempt, going from 67.5 to 72.5. She missed on her first offering. Second offering was good. She'll try to see if she can improve on that number.
Uneven on the way down.
Hanson. 3 white lights,
good.
so the unevenness didn't necessarily affect her. The judges giving some latitude there. Did not see a consistent dropping of the bar, if you will. So she gets the lift there.
Yeah, the uneven nature is more of an issue health-wise. Technique, obviously, but you can come up uneven. There's not really going to be a rule of fraction there unless the bar completely drops down. But I just always look at it as health-wise. You can imagine when you're lifting weights to that level, Brian, that if you're uneven, think of the force that it's putting on your spine, your muscles, you know, in not squatting in a balanced position, you're putting yourself at a greater risk of injury. Looks like we've actually got a little bit of an opening on both platforms.
We do have a little bit of an opening, and now we're go ahead and take it over to platform number 2, where it'll be Tiffany Choo with her third offering.
Tiffany's been very solid so far, Brian. Both of her attempts were technically proficient and room to spare, so this will be a good finish for her at 225. If you're watching out there at home, guys in the weight room, this is 2 plates. This will be a good finish for Tiffany. The knees did come in, but she was able to power through. Let's see what the judges say.
2 out of 3 white lights to Choo, and happy about it. The young lady out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, gets the lift at 102.5, so she's on the board there going to the bench press. We take a look at Danielle Chapman with that lift at 107.5, 3 white lights, so she's on the board. As we're trying to gather some sort of flow here in the morning, as we've got Melissa Cederburg and Danielle Chapman that'll be coming on here in just a little bit. So with that, we'll go to platform number 2, where Cederburg is going for a perfect triumvirate of attempts here on the squat. She connected at 95 and 100. We'll see what she can do at 105.
I think that's going to be
through.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good lift. It was uneven, but she locked it out good. I think that's a good lift.
3 white lights, so she's on the board at 105. So that'll take us to Danielle Chapman. Chapman, her second offering, going from 97.5 to 107.5. And I would imagine that depth was the only problem there. She had plenty in the tank. She gets the 3 white lights there. She's on the board at 107.5.
That's a sizable jump, Brian. For females of this weight category, she just took a 10-kilo jump and hit it easily. So a lot of times you'll see small jumps in this group.
Gabrielle Fundaro on platform number 2. 95 and 102.5, now making another 7.5-kilo jump to 110. Fundaro battling. We'll see what the judges have to say. Did not get it. 2 out of 3 red lights there, so that lift does not count. Both wings, so obviously a depth issue for Fundaro.
Yeah, I thought it was close.
On platform number 3, Danielle Chapman at 107.5. Her second offering. 3 white lights there, so she's on the board.
Danielle's been very impressive so far in her first 2 squats.
As you can see, Christina Myers, as they've already completed 1 flight over on platform number 2. We'll get our first look at Christina Myers. Christina Myers over on platform number 2. Out of Birmingham, Alabama. So not too far from this area.
No, not at all. Certainly easy opener, room to spare.
Myers, 3 white lights there, so she's in at 85 kilos. We'll have over on platform number 3.
That must be Aaron Burdett, right?
I'm thinking it's Aaron Burdett.
Chapman had already lifted.
Chapman had made the lift. That attempt at 110 for Burdett. 3 white lights, so Burdett's on the board.
Our score sheet's not always updating, so we apologize if we used the wrong name, but I believe that was Aaron Burdett.
So we'll now have over on platform number 2, Joanne De La Rosa making an attempt, her opening salvo at 95 kilos. She'll put that one on the rack. Her first attempt. It's no good. She got 3 red lights, so obviously depth an issue on her first opportunity.
Well, and it appeared that she might have missed one of the judges' commands. Of course, it's harder for us to know because we're a good bit away, but it appeared like she did not wait for one of the commands.
This I'm thinking Caitlin Cavan, I believe. It's her attempt at 110.
And the lift for Caitlin was good.
So you see over there, Nicola Tucci. Nicola Tucci will get her first opportunity. Tucci out of Atlanta, Georgia. So about as local as you can get. Tucci getting her first opportunity at 100 kilos. Tucci will put it on the rack. 3 white lights, so she's on the board.
Unfortunately, here on platform 3, our score sheet's not updating, so we're not going to be able to tell you accurately who the lifter is right now and the weight on the bar. It was definitely a depth issue, and she didn't make that. Looks like we're starting to update on 3, so we should be good. Or maybe not.
While we've got an opportunity, special thanks goes out to Team Rohr Powerlifting for their work at the 5-bar Showdown. One of the major movers in the conception of this event. Josh Rohr and his staff have put together the time and effort to make this a very solid event here in the Atlanta area. Strong social media presence on Facebook and Instagram, so you can find them at Team Rohr. Again, special thanks to Josh Rohr and TeamRohr.com for their support of this 5-bar Showdown. Still working over on platform number 2, Madison Senior, her first attempt at 105. We'll see what the judges have to say. But she's got 3 white lights, so she's on the board. Senior gets her first lift. Very satisfied with that opening effort at 105 kilos.
Yeah, that was a clearly smile of a lifter completing their opening squat. A smile of relief and joy that I'm on the board. Now I can get rolling.
Anna Smith will be the next lifter over on platform number 2. She'll be approaching here in just a moment.
This will be Kelsey's first attempt on completed jerk. 60 kilos, 132 pounds.
Action still on platform number 3. Still engaged in a second rotation of squats in the first flight. Over on platform number 2, we've got our second flight of the day opening up. It's Anna Smith. Young lady out of Greenville, South Carolina. Gets 3 white lights, so Smith on the board at 107.5. So now we'll see Gretchen Patsios coming on. Patsios over on number 3. Patsios' third attempt is up. We'll see what the judges say. 3 white lights, so she's 3 for 3 in her open. Over on platform number 3, we saw tried to catch Kimberly McLaughlin at the tail end, a 110-kilo effort. She gets 3 white lights there, so she's on the board with her first lift.
Yeah, Kimberly's opener looks solid. Strong, deep opener. She's got more in her.
She has 2 attempts left. Strong opener at 60. 62 is her next call.
Platform number 2, T.L. McCord. Out of Gainesville, Georgia. Attempt at 112.5 kilos. Lift is up and good.
Yeah, TL's lift was textbook. Good, solid technique.
3 white lights on 2 for McCord. 3 white lights on 3 for, I believe that was Danielle Chapman. Over on platform number 3.
So we think that this is Aaron Burdett.
So we go over to platform number 2. It's Rebecca Gilbert. Completed her lift. Now we go back to platform number 3. Gilbert connected at 120. 3 white lights there on number 2.
Yeah, once again, our score sheet on platform 3 is just not updating, so we're a little flying blind. On 2, we're able to give you more accurate description. So if you're watching at home, a lifter on platform 3, we're trying to give you some updates. I can tell you what weight's on the bar. This right here would be
Elise Smith over on platform number 2, making an attempt at 120 kilos.
264 opener for Elise. Three whites.
3 white lights for Smith, so she's on at 120. Now we go back over to platform number 3. Third attempts on platform number 3.
She stepped forward. She actually made the lift, but just before the rack, I believe, yeah, she stepped forward.
3 red lights there, so no go for that one. Jazzylyn Pepper will step to the platform on number 2, an attempt of 120 kilos. Here at day 2 of the 2018 5-bar Showdown here at the Meadowcreek Arena. It's Pepper puts it back on the rack. 3 white lights, so she's on the board at 120. Now we take it back to platform number 3. And that will not be a completed lift in the final attempt there.
It's a sizable opener, Brian, on platform 2. Nearly a 300-pound opener, 292 for Allison Weinberg, the biggest opener so far.
Her first opportunity of the day out of Colts Neck, New Jersey. Definitely starting to see a broader array of talent coming from across the country. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, Dr. Anderson, about the
Wow. She smoked that, Brian.
3 white lights there. That's a really good opening number.
Yeah, it sounds like if you're from Colts Neck that you should be strong. That just sounds like a place that would produce strong athletes. That's a great opening.
And if for some reason not, you can certainly fake it if you're from a place like Colts Neck, New Jersey.
That is true.
Three red lights there, so apparently all 3 judges on platform number 3 noticing that there was obviously a lack of depth there.
And on the third attempts, you'll see that sometimes where second and third attempts, but often on third attempts where lifters are trying to push the max, that they'll bring it up just a little bit.
Joanne De La Rosa with her second opportunity. Missed at 95 earlier. Makes the same attempt at 95 and 3 white lights there, so she corrected off of the first miss of her day.
Yeah, that's big relief. If you start out when you miss your opening squat, coming back and hitting it on your second, now she can really move forward for going for a bigger third attempt.
Back over on platform number 3. So if you've not ever seen an event like this of this nature, and you're in the Atlanta area, you should definitely make your way out here. So we've got weightlifting going on another YouTube channel, while we've got the powerlifting going on here. All of this part of the brainchild of Josh Rohr and Caleb Williams. Over on platform number 2, Nicola Tucci, who connected at 100 kilos, now taking the jump to 107.5.
Yeah, the women lifting on the weightlifting portion that's right in front of us this morning will be doing the Superman total this afternoon. So that's how that works. They're doing weightlifting in the morning, and then they will do the power lifts in the afternoon.
And that promises to be something else.
Yeah, that's an exciting concept because you'll really get to see the crossover appeal and what the weaknesses and strengths are.
2 out of 3 white lights for Nicola Tucci, so she's on the board at 107.5. Over on platform number 3, we're in the third rotations of the first flight there. So we'll now see Anna Smith making her way for her second opportunity. 107.5 was where she connected earlier. 112.5 will be this attempt.
Appears like there might have been a mistake in terms of who the lifter is on platform 2, so.
So apparently they're going to try to figure out what they're doing there. It'll be Anna Smith now.
The clock is running, so I'm not sure if she's timing out because she's not going to get the signal. There's only 3 seconds left on the clock. I don't know. Maybe they're going to reset the clock for her since there was a mistake. Yeah, the clock's hit 0, so they must be resetting it since there was a mistake in the order.
Kept fighting. We'll see what the judges say as she puts it on the rack. 2 out of 3 white lights, so she's on the board. Anna Smith at 112.5. While we've got a moment, I'll tell you a little bit about Williams Weightlifting, another part of the title sponsorship of this 5-bar showdown. Williams Weightlifting is a major piece in this year's 2018 5-bar showdown. Located in Beaufort, Caleb Williams is one of the founding fathers of this event. You can find out more about Williams Weightlifting USA by going online to WilliamsWeightlifting.com. That's WilliamsWeightlifting.com, a proud partner of the 2018 5-bar showdown. Over on platform number 2, Madison Senior now making the attempt at that same 112.5, which might have been the cause of the confusion. Plus the fact I'm sure Madison Senior was chomping at the bit to get to her second attempt.
That's what I was thinking, Brian. Maybe she's just so fired up she wanted to go as soon as she saw the weight on the bar.
Blood in the water for Madison Senior, so she went after the attack.
Once she got her chance, Brian, she definitely took it to heart because she looked strong on that second attempt. So more in store for Madison on her third.
Next up on number 2, we should have T.L. McCord coming up, who connected at 112.5 in her first offering will be making an attempt at 122.5. As we are into this first of 3 disciplines on the powerlifting side.
We're making good progress on platform 2, Brian. It looks like we're going to be up towards 300 pretty soon. This is 270. We might go over 300 just at the end of this round.
Could be what very well a precursor of what we'll see in some of the men's segments later today.
Yeah, there's going to be some sizable lifts before this contest is over across all the weight groups, categories, age groups, men and women's competition.
Well, we touched on this briefly yesterday about just there really truly is something for everybody when it comes to powerlifting, regardless of age, regardless of size, gender. There's something for you. You have an opportunity to compete against your contemporaries.
Yeah, that's always been something that I always mention to people when they first hear about the sport of powerlifting, is that really you can do it your entire life. I mean, we've got youth division lifters and then lifters competing well 60s, 70s, and 80s, and all different weight classes. And the balance is that your strengths in one lift might be your negatives in another. So, you know, you kind of have something that benefits you and then something that might penalize you, but it equals out for everybody.
Kimberly McLaughlin. This is 2 out of 3 there on platform number 2. And where that really begins to show up is where I spent some time last year in Orlando, Florida, doing Raw Nationals. You see a broad range of weight classes and age classes, and it really is something to see. And that is the best of the best in the country.
Well, yeah, and a couple years ago when the Raw Nationals was in Atlanta, we were discussing this last night, there was a battle for the national title between David Ricks, who at the time was in his mid-50s, I believe he might have been 54, and Jesse Norris, who was about 23. So you're talking the national title came down to a difference in 30 years age group, and they were the number 1 and number 2 lifters in the country. So if that doesn't tell you that it's all comers, nothing does.
Rebecca Gilbert connects at 127.5 on her second offering, so she's got 127.5. McLaughlin, prior to her lift, was not able to connect with her second opportunity, as we'll now go over to platform number 3. As soon as we're done with platform 3, we'll go immediately to number 2, as these 2 lifts are going to come very close to one another.
Yeah, this is what we call dueling squats, Brian. It's going to be a battle to see who can get the lift, the signal and the lift completed first.
Platform number 3 completes the lift. We'll let you know what happens there as 3 white lights on platform number 3. Now Elise Smith at 127.5 was able to power through it. Looked like there was almost a pause there. She gets 2 out of 3 white lights, but was able to find the extra horsepower needed to get back up to the top.
Yeah, that was a good fight. Being able to get through the sticking points makes a big difference on your total at the end of the day. And you can fight through a lift like that.
Now, when you see somebody having to power through a second offering like that, is it reasonable to say that in the third opportunity they may just kind of be going after some house money, if you will, and sort of taking a shot at an ambitious goal in that third lift?
Yeah, that lifter in particular, I would have to know more, but in some cases you'll even pass your third attempt if your second really takes a lot out of you, just so that you can save the energy. But there is also the thought of what you just said, is that might be the time to go for something that's beyond what you were expecting, just to be able to give yourself a chance to pad your total.
Jazzylyn Pepper over on platform number 2 gets 2 out of 3 white lights there, so Pepper's on the board at 127.5. Allison Weinberg will be coming on after connecting at 132.5 on her first lift. She's going to make the jump to 140. So this, of course, the most ambitious number that we've seen on platform number 2 today.
308, and good news for those of you watching at home on platform 3, we're up and running again on our score sheet. So Ashley Yost will be your lifter on 3, Allison Weinberg your lifter on 2. We're going to watch Allison first because she's ready with 308, 308 pounds, Brian. This is just a junior lifter. That means she's age 23 or below, and she is at the top of this group. This is the biggest squat we've seen so far of the day.
Weinberg About to pull it off the rack and engage the lift. Ashley Yost about to do the same. Hopefully we can bring both of them to you, one after another. Weinberg, wow. That was impressive. We'll take it immediately over to Yost. Weinberg with 3 white lights as we watch Yost. Yost out of Huntsville, Alabama gets 3 white lights, so her first offering is good. As Yost connects at 135. Over on platform number 2, we'll start the third rotation. Over on platform number 3, we'll have a brand new flight just getting started, as we'll have Elizabeth Turner coming up over on platform number 3.
And I like to give the fans something to tune in for, so if you're watching right now at home or somewhere out and about, you're going to want to stay tuned, because on the squat on platform 3, we're going to get over 560 pounds in the next 4 lifters. That's in the women's division, Brian.
Joanne De La Rosa connected on her second lift at 95, cannot get to 105, so she'll take a score of 95 kilos to the bench press. It's Elizabeth Turner completing her lift, 3 white lights there, so she's on at 137 and a half. It's Nicola Tucci will be coming on here in just a moment, platform number 2. So we'll go to Tucci, who connected at 100, 107 and a half, going to take a 5 kilo jump to 112 and a half.
248 for Nicola. So this is a good finish for her if she can get this on the board. This will put her in very good position.
Tucci not going to be able to finish. So the third lift opportunity would not be good. She'll carry a 107 and a half. We'll now take it over to platform 3. Deanna Gerdsmeyer out of Franklin, Tennessee. Finished strong. Gets 3 white lights, so she's on the board at 142 and a half.
And good squat form. I've seen her lift in the past before, and she was a much more bent over squatter and had some technique issues, and you can really tell there's a noticeable improvement there, which of course is also reflected in strength, as she hit a nice strong opener and is going to be going to 352 on her second.
Over on platform number 2, Anna Smith, who is 2 for 2 on the day already. 107 and a half, 112 and a half, going to make an attempt of 115. Smith adjusting the belt in preparation for her final opportunity. Milena Schaefer will be over on platform number 3 in a moment, making an opening attempt at 212 and a half. Hopefully we'll get to that here in seconds.
We need to see that. That's 468 opener. That is not the biggest opener of the contest so far, but
will not be able to complete the lift, and we'll take it immediately over to Schaefer.
Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. 468 in the women's division, opening squat. And depth is not a problem.
Schaefer, 3 white lights. I'll be intrigued to see what we see from her with her final 2 lifts in this morning's squat segment of this opening session of day 2. Madison Senior, the ambitious one, will get her third opportunity, this time at 117 and a half.
259 pounds.
Senior fights through. She's got a smile on her face. She feels good about it. 2 out of 3 white lights. So she's got the number that she was looking for at 117 and a half. Now we go to Benika Brown.
You ready for this, Brian? Simply put, the greatest woman squatter in the sport of powerlifting, the greatest woman squatter alive today right here. Bonica Brown opening at 562. Whether it's raw or equipment, this is the best woman squatter on the planet. You are in for a treat. 562 opening attempt.
Wow. No worries on depth there.
No problem, and
that was phenomenal.
I would suspect 600 is going to be her target before the day is over. I assume the second attempt somewhere around 584. but I think 600's at least in the offering at some point.
T.L. McCord, an attempt of 125. She's 2 for 2 on the day. And she was able to power through. Very solid effort for McCord, though depth was what she got caught on. No lift there for McCord, so she'll take her second lift total into the bench press. And now we'll see one of the more entertaining lifters that I get to see in my travels around powerlifting, Mr. James Vang. He'll start at 260 kilos.
Yeah, there's actually a money competition for equipped lifters within the meet. So these next two lifters are battling for Josh's money, $750. It's going to be James Vang and Dennis Cornelius doing a pound-for-pound battle. James is going to need every lift he can to hold on with Dennis.
Second session of Superwoman will begin. Announcements at 10:05. Lifting will begin at 10:15.
Easy opener. I think the depth is where it's going to be close, but I think he'll get that one.
Vang, 2 out of 3 white lights, so he's on the board at 260.
All right, you ready for a treat here?
Of course I'm ready for a treat.
400 kilos. 400 kilos. 881 pounds. Tulsa, Oklahoma's Dennis Cornelius. Now, Dennis yesterday, on his day before this meet, squatted 892. He's coming back today, 24 hours later, with 881 as an opener with equipment. Now, before we go to Dennis, while they're getting all those plates loaded, we're going to get a quick look over at 2. What do you got here on 2, Brian?
Elise Smith making an attempt of 130 kilos. She's connected at 120, 127 and a half. Smith fighting, gets it to the top. We'll see what the judges have to say. We'll tell you off camera. 2 out of 3 white lights, so Smith connects there at 130.
Now the backstory here is this is the first time Dennis has ever worn a suit in competition. So this will be interesting just to see how he handles. First time he's ever put a suit on in competition. 881. You can see it was an awkward lift for him in terms of just getting used to it. Appears like it was turned down due to depth, 2-1 call. I had a nice talk with Dennis last night. We actually went out with a group of lifters to dinner, and he was definitely concerned about his squat in terms of getting the gear and mastering the whole concept of that. There's plenty of strength there. In fact, the numbers he's looking at are significantly above 881. But it'll be interesting, Brian, to see, since there's money involved, does he just repeat that lift in order to stay in the competition?
Well, a question I'll ask you after Rebecca Gilbert at 132 and a half, her third offering, really working hard, gets it to the rack. We'll see what the judges have to say. 2 out of 3 white lights, so she's on at 132 and a half. I think the thing that's just as intriguing about Mr. Cornelius and his ability to lift today and doing the things that he does, he put together a solid performance yesterday, but how difficult is it going to be for the body to respond after back-to-back days of lifting like he has been doing?
Well, it's almost unprecedented because there have been amazing lifters like Blaine Sumner, who's been known for, at the Arnold competition, doing a full meet and then a day later doing the bench competition. But I can't remember a lifter of Dennis's caliber doing a full meet, totaling the weights he's doing, especially in the heavyweight categories. That's just so unusual. And then coming back 24 hours later and doing another meet. And he's not taking token lifts. He did 2204 yesterday.
Trish Foote. Try to get back to her. She's trying to power through on her second attempt. She connected at 122 and a half, 137 and a half. She gets it, so she's on the board with 3 white lights there on platform number 3. So good lift for Foote there. Good jump. She was able to take 15 extra kilos from first to second offering. So we'll have now on platform number 3, Raina Roshan. Roshan, her first attempt at 130 kilos, she connected. It's Roshan now. Making the jump of 7.5 kilos. We'll see what the judges have to say after she puts it on the rack. 2 out of 3 white lights, so she's got her second lift of 137.5. So over on platform number 2, Allison Weinberg at 145. Wow. Seemed like the more she was challenged, the more she was up to the challenge. She's happy about that as she gets to 145, going 3 for 3 in the squats.
Yeah, it was the biggest squat of the flight, and she left a good bit on the bar. You don't see that a lot on a third attempt, so you have to wonder if she's just a newer lifter that's making such big gains they couldn't keep up with her, because there was at least 5 kilos more left on that attempt.
Ashley Yost on platform number 3 will approach. She connected at 135 on her first offering. 145 will be her second attempt. So it looks like platform number 2 being set up now for the bench press. As we've gotten through the squats, our attention will focus strictly on platform number 3 for the next little bit. As Yost on her second offering gets it to the top. 3 white lights, so she's up at 145. So we got an opportunity. Want to say a big thank you to SBD Apparel. SBD Apparel is a proud sponsor of the 5-Bar Showdown, a global sportswear brand available in 34 countries, as well as an online presence for over 200 countries. You can shop online at sbdapparel.com. Again, a special thanks goes to SBD Apparel for their support of the 5-Bar Showdown. So we'll have Elizabeth Turner coming on, an attempt of 150 kilos after she connected at 137.5. A good effort, rewarded by the judges with 3 white lights.
Yeah, Elizabeth
She's on the board.
Was very deep and a great fight, as you said, Brian. Now, I don't know what she'll do on her third because it doesn't appear to be much left in her. Maybe she won't go as deep, but the ability to fight through a tough squat like that makes a big difference in the ability to pad your total. Nothing worse than seeing a lifter just barely miss a lift. You know they had more in them than what they got credited with the attempt before, but you only get credited with what's completed. You can't go back down in our sport.
It's Deanna Gerdsmeyer about to make her second attempt as she's going from 142 to 142.5 to 160.
Yeah, nearly a 40-pound jump. That's a sizable jump in the women's division. Now, I had mentioned earlier her form and her technique is getting much better. So I really think this is going to come down to strength is never really an issue for her. It's going to come down to can she maintain that form and that groove under 40 more pounds of weight, because the technique obviously is more challenging when you're under a bigger weight. She's standing up strong. The weight doesn't appear to be an issue at all on her back. Good walkout. Keeps her chest up. Drive the knees. See, the knees are coming in. That's something she's going to have to work on. But she's really keeping the chest up, which made all the difference in the world. So I would say kudos to keeping the chest up, but she's got to get her knees driving out a little bit more, especially through the sticking point. When your knees come in, Brian, what happens is your hips stay behind you. So you really want to drive the knees out, pushes the hips up forward, it gets them underneath the bar. And that's kind of a little subtlety that you'll notice will make or break a lot of big squats.
Well, and if nothing else, that technique is not only going to have an effect for that lift that you're engaged in at the moment, but in the long-term effect of being able to do this well throughout the course of the event. The more efficient that you are on each individual lift, the more you've got left in the tank for the subsequent lifts following.
Yeah, and you're right on target because you're wasting energy and also you're risking a greater injury when you get out of position. Now, since we've only got one platform going, we can really focus. These next few lifts are just going to be world-class back to back to back to back. So let's start with Melena Schaefer. 490, Brian. 490 pounds, and she's not even the biggest squat in the women's division. This is a world-class squat right here. This is almost 500 pounds in the women's division raw. She looked deep and strong on her opener.
The opener was very solid.
Now that was clearly deep, but you'll notice in the bottom there what happens, Brian, was she shifted forward. She lost some of her tightness. So what I would suspect is there's more strength there, but she's going to have to stay tighter in the bottom or that will come back to bite her on the third.
So now, she got the lift to go at 222.5, stumbled on the way off the platform, but she's fine. And that's going to set up Bonica Brown. 255 is what she connected on the open, making an attempt 262.5 kilos.
Yeah, this is just unheard of. 578 pounds in the women's equipped division is a gigantic squat, is a world-class squat. Bonica's the best squatter, as I said, in the world today in the women's division. World-class bencher, and you're really in for a treat here to see this. 578 pounds, and her technique when you watch her squat is at a premium. She's a master in this lift. Tremendous strength, but also precision-like technique. You'll notice here, Brian, the level of care she takes to emphasis, getting that bar position locked in, really squeezing the shoulders together, creating that big chest and that tightness. Makes all the difference in the world. Very controlled walkout, making sure that the bar is not unsteady. And then let's see if she keeps that chest up and drives the knees out. Chest is up and the knees stay out, and that lift is easy. And as opposed to Deanna's lift, that was the difference there, keeping the knees out. Not any problem. I don't know what Bonica's plans are. I did not get a chance to speak to her today, but I'm venturing to guess, Brian, we're going to see 600 on her third attempt or more.
Well, I mean, she was a clinician there on that second offering. That was, as you mentioned, textbook. And so for her to go at 262.5, a phenomenal second effort, is James Vang, who connected at 260, now going to try to make a jump at 277.5.
Just to touch real quick on Bonica, when you can take precision, top quality technique with a tremendous athletic ability, what you do is you create superstars. And we have that in our sport. Ray Williams is an example of that. Bonica is an example of that. Dennis Cornelius. It's taking the masterful technique and that tremendous strength, putting it all together.
And we have one of the headliners of the powerlifting world here at this 2018 5-bar Showdown. So glad to bring it to you this morning.
So this is a quadruple bodyweight squat, 611 pounds. Now James's only real issue is going to be depth. He is powerful and he is also precision. So I suspect the lift will be no problem, but he's got to get depth. Yeah, easy lift. I think he pulled that one up a little. That one could get him some reds. Let's see. Got one red. He's clearly got plenty of strength. I mean, he's not having any problem. He looks like he can squat 650 on strength. All right, we're in for a treat, Brian.
After missing 400 kilos, Dennis Cornelius will now make a second attempt of 410. So just where James Vang thought that maybe he was making some ground up, Cornelius is going to try to create even more separation here. It's important that he makes this one, but apparently making the jump 10 kilos feels like that there's more than enough strength there to make the lift here at 410.
Well, and this is what separates Dennis Cornelius from the rest of us, what I call human beings that roam the earth, is he decided to do 22:04 yesterday. He puts a suit on for the first time in his powerlifting career and gets turned down on 881, and Dennis's attitude is, I just need more weight on the ball. And so now he's going 9:03, and he's absolutely right. It's not a problem on strength. It's all going to come down to technique and depth. He almost has to hit the hole a little more aggressive with the suit than he does in the raw. Because he's such a controlled lifter, I almost think he needs more tempo towards the bottom of the lift because the suit is so restrictive. In order to get depth, he almost has to attack the hole. Let's see if he's able to do that a little bit more. I don't believe strength will be an issue. He actually attacked it a little bit better and an easy lift. Let's see what the judges say. I think that was a little deeper, and he got it 2-1. Yeah, it really comes down to what it is here, Brian, is when you're a raw lifter like Dennis who's so precise, he has a tempo that he hits the hole in, but he knows where depth is. The suit is so restrictive. It's hard for those of you at home who haven't used one, but it's an extremely restrictive device, and it just limits your nerve senses, understanding proprioceptively where you are. It's harder to feel. So on that opener, it almost appeared like he was tentative, and on that lift, he just hit the hole with a little bit more tempo, And it wouldn't surprise me, Brian, if he goes somewhere in the 950, 960 range.
So to give some indication for those that are relatively new to powerlifting, essentially you've got a lot of factors taking place there. You've got Dennis Cornelius, who can more than handle the weight, but the suit is actually keeping him upright where he wants to find depth. So all he does is just add more weight to get him even deeper, and that helps actually technically land the lift.
Yeah, and with as strong as he looked on that one, it's going to sound bizarre when I say this, but it wouldn't shock me if he goes up bigger and he hits the next one easier because of what you said. The extra weight will actually get him more into the hole with some power and momentum, because as you can see, once he came out of the hole, the lift was easy. It's harder for Dennis to squat down than it is to squat up. Again, going back to the fact that he's not really like the rest of us.
It's Renee Roshan. Third opportunity at 145.
We'll give you an update as soon as we know what Dennis put in, but it would not surprise me. I know in talking to him yesterday, he felt that there would be somewhere in the upper nines potentially there for him. So I don't know if he'll go that far just because he had to repeat, and he is interested in winning the money, although I think if he hits 2 benches and 2 deadlifts, he'll have it locked up with the 903 squat. But we're in store for a treat in about 5 or 6 minutes.
Roshan was not able to connect on her final lift at 145, so she'll take 137 and a half. So we have started the bench press up on number 2. We'll try to keep you updated from time to time with that as we're just getting started there. But we're trying to wrap up things here on platform number 3 as it relates to the squats. And these numbers will continue to get higher and higher on these final opportunities. It's Ashley Yost making an attempt after connecting at 135 and 145. Going to make an offering at 150 for her final attempt here.
All right, here's one of your athletes in this session. These ladies just like the last session.
Yost fighting.
These are Superwomen. Today we'll be competing in weights this morning.
3 white lights, so she's on the board at 150. And one thing that I saw there, Dr. Anderson, was a circumstance there to where it looked like she was beginning to maybe struggle a little bit to the point to where the spotters there, their job is to make sure that the safety of the lifters is of the utmost importance. However, in the process of all that, for the spotters, you're kind of like, you want to hang on, you want to give them the opportunity. It's a real art, it's a real science for those spotters not to go in too early and pull the bar from the lifter.
Well, and on the platform we're watching right now, Elizabeth Turner squat on, the back spotter, Dale McLaren, is actually a world-class powerlifter, has won the Masters World Championships. So he's very aware of that exact fact of giving the lifter a chance to complete the lift.
And Elizabeth Turner cannot connect at 152 and a half, so she'll take a 150 to the bench press for her. So we'll have Deanna Gerdsmeyer come on. She is 2 for 2 in the squat. 142 and a half was her first offering. 160 was the second squat. She's now going to make an attempt of 162 and a half for her third offering.
Yeah, and this is a small jump, 5-pound jump. Just looking to add to the total. Based on what we saw earlier, it's really just going to come down to the knees out. She's clearly keeping her chest up. She's got really good technique across the board. It's improved noticeably. But the knees are going to have to drive out, or at minimum not go crashing in. At least if she can keep them from bending in, that would make all the difference. In fact, I think this lift would have room to spare if she can do that. Of course, it's easy to say from 85 feet away. There's a reason why I'm retired, Brian, is this is not an easy sport to perform, especially at the level that Deanna's at. This is a nationally ranked squatter.
Well, the intensity is certainly
Watch the
there.
Knees. Yeah, they actually stayed out a little bit and then started crashing in. Now, how about this? Milena Schaefer, our next lifter, is going for 507, and at 95% of the meets throughout powerlifting in the country, this would be the biggest story, the biggest lift of the competition. And we've still got 3 more gigantic lifts coming after her. Now, a little bit of a news flash. I don't know if this is completely accurate because it might not be updated, but our score sheet is showing that Dennis does not have a third attempt in, so it's possible that Dennis is stopping at the 9:03. That would be a disappointment because we would love to see him go out there, and maybe they just haven't put it in yet. We do see that Bonica is going for the 600 barrier that we discussed, Brian, and James Vang's got 620, actually 633 in for his. So our next three squatters are going to be national and world level squatting back to back to back.
For Milena Schaefer, her third opportunity at 230 kilos, and a circumstance to where Milena Schaefer comes into this with goals that she has set, and she's looking to impress some folks here. And to be quite honest with you, I've been impressed by what I've seen out of Milena Schaefer.
Yeah, as I said, if it wasn't for the fact that Bonica's here, this is the biggest story of the women's competition so far. I mean, this is a phenomenal squat. It was interesting because she hit the hole better tempo, but it almost seemed like it threw her off and she had to regain balance before she drove up, and it was just too much to ask. And how about this? We just saw an amazing attempt at 507, and we're going to jump 93 pounds. 93 pounds is being added to the bar for Bonica Brown. 600-pound squat raw. I can remember when I got into the sport in 1987 that a 600-pound squat by a woman was at that point unthinkable, had never even been done with wraps, with a suit, with anything. And now you're talking 600 pounds with just a belt. This is history. Dennis is doing a third squat. I want to correct you. He got his attempt in at 925, so stay tuned for that. But this right here, what you're witnessing, is history here. This is, simply put, the greatest woman squatter on the planet and about to make history with 600 pounds raw. And technique has been on point. So I suspect at this point that will not be an issue. She's just really got to lock it in because strength appears to be there, maybe even a little above 600. Keep that chest up. The knees stay out. Now, she did shift a little forward, but she's so strong she motored through it. It almost seemed to Brian like she was so fired up that she kind of rushed the drive upward and it shifted her forward. It shows how strong she is because if she would have kept that balance even better, I think 622, 628 might be in the cards. Bonica could be setting history in the next couple years, putting a number up that's just never even going to be touched again. I mean, you're talking about weights that were unthinkable for a woman's powerlifter with gear. That was history. What did you think of that?
Well,
I got to know what from your thoughts.
Not just, the numbers are otherworldly. There's no question about it. But what I was so impressed with is the fact that on the way up, she's talking herself through the lift like, see what I just did. And essentially, you can't drop the bar. You don't want to drop the bar here. But that was about as close to a mic drop as you're ever going to see in a powerlifting competition. Definitely an exclamation point to what we've seen this morning in the squat.
Yeah, it goes back to what we said before about Dennis isn't human. Yeah, Bonica's so strong she can squat 600 and tell you she's squatting 600 as she does it. Now, how about this? James Vang looking to hold on in the money battle. He has to have this lift if he wants any chance to be able to take Dennis down. It is a pound-for-pound battle. And again, there's going to be no problem with strength. I think he's capable of 650. Is he going to get deep? He's going to have to attack the hole here, Brian. So yeah, there's no problem with strength there. He's a 650, maybe even a 660 squatter. And
2 out of 3.
Yeah, that one was good. That one actually appeared like he took it a little lower. Maybe the heavier weight helped. All right. I got to set the stage for this because out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I had a nice chat with Dennis last night. And so I told him I would give a shout out. So ladies, Megan Cornelius, move up a little closer to your screen. And that's Dennis's wife. And Dennis's 2 little girls, Kate and Ava. Daddy's got 925 on the bar. History about to be made. He went 2204 yesterday, squatted 892. And just as an encore, Dennis decided to wake up and say, I'll go squat 925 today. So if you're watching at home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, start clapping your hands, make some noise. We'll feel it all the way here in Georgia. If you're anywhere in the world, because I know Dennis has fans all over the place, there's international powerlifters tuning into this lift. 925 pounds. Now you're going to say to yourself, he did 892, what's the big deal? It's only 925 with gear. He's never put suit on in a competition. I believe he's only done it once or twice in the gym. And do not be surprised if he obliterates this lift. There will be strength there. It's really going to come down to, can he attack that hole and actually start to get a rhythm with the suit? This might be a 1,000-pound squatter in the offering, a meet or two down the road. And check out the precision here, Brian. Dennis will get this bar locked and loaded. You see the low bar position. Really cranking that bar low. He keeps his chest up. And he's just very controlled throughout all his movements. Big chest to air. Good setup.
The bar just bending.
Now it's really going to come down to, can he stay tight and attack the bottom? Now that might have been a depth issue there. It appeared like he didn't attack it as much. Let's see what the judges said. It's going to be close. I think, 2-1. I thought he might get it past. Really what it comes down to for Dennis is it just comes down to practice. What you're talking about here, Brian, is you're talking about, Michael Jordan playing baseball. You're talking about a guy who's the best in the world at what he does, and all of a sudden, and raw powerlifting and equipped powerlifting are two different sports. Don't let anyone fool you. There are a few absolute freaks like Blaine Sumner who can do both. Bonica can do both. But it is not as simple as putting a suit on and all of a sudden you can squat 102, 150 pounds more. And Dennis just needs practice. He's just so strong. If he was to choose to switch over and start going to the gear, and he did mention to me the World Games is a goal for him, which is currently an equipped competition. Yeah, this is my prediction. Dennis is a 1,000-pound squatter. And not long. Not long, because it's just a matter of getting used to it. Wait till you see what he does in the bench. When he gets used to a bencher, he's probably a 700 bencher.
Phenomenal numbers being stated by Dr. Patrick Anderson here this morning in day 2 of our 2018 5-bar showdown here from Meadowcreek Arena, as platform number 3 will begin to make its transition over to a bench press scenario, as we'll begin to start moving over to benches over on platform number 2. But before we do that, I want to say thanks and hello to Roswell Barbell, the pinnacle of strength training and powerlifting in North Atlanta. Roswell Barbell is a state-of-the-past facility that has modern techniques proven for success and excellence in powerlifting, Olympic lifting, bodybuilding, and strongman competition. Find Roswell Barbell at www.roswellbarbell.com. That's www.roswellbarbell.com. As you can see, platform number 3 getting prepped and ready for the bench press. So Rebecca Thomas will get things to lead off here in the bench press.
Yeah, I believe over on platform 3, if I was seeing it correctly, Brian, the spotter loader crew with Dale McLaren was taking towels and wiping the tears that had developed on the plates because of the abuse that was taking place over there. Those beautiful plates were actually beginning to develop tears. I felt bad for them for a moment after, Milena and Bonica and James and Dennis. So now that we've got the tears wiped off, the plates are feeling a little better. Maybe we can get back to some bench pressing.
Yeah, they were taking a little heat, that's for sure, at the tail end of that. So we'll go back over to platform number 2. That's Madeline Hanson.
And just as a comment, Brian, because you had mentioned about the diversity in the sport of powerlifting, how amazing was it that in that one little 4-lifter stretch, we had 2 women, Bonica and Milena. We had James Vang, I believe he would be somewhere around 150, 160-pound powerlifter, and then a 280, 290-pound giant in Dennis, and world class across the board. So you're talking spectrums, male and female, spectrums in the body weight. We had 2 of them in equipment, 2 of them in raw. Yeah, powerlifting, you can never let it be said that we can't fit anyone in. Pretty much this is a sport for all.
Well, and to ask the question, a lot of folks are wondering, how is it that Dennis Cornelius and James Vang can be in the same competition with each other? You talked about a pound-for-pound comparison. Sort of let the folks know that are new to the sport what that looks like exactly.
So a man named Robert Wilkes from Australia came up with a formula. It's a coefficient formula that essentially assigns a score based on your body weight. So it's a statistical analysis. I could make it more confusing, but the simple way to look at it is you get a number based on your body weight. The heavier you are, the lower your number is. So for instance, Dennis being heavier, he gets a number. His number is lower. His total is multiplied by that number. James being lighter, his number is higher. His total is multiplied. And in theory, it's not 100%. There's people who are going to complain. Certain classes get a benefit, others don't, because you can't make it equal everybody. But the premise is what you're trying to equate is where would James's total at his body weight equate to Dennis's at his body weight. And it's designed to develop what is called the best lifter. Who's the best pound-for-pound lifter? And that's where the money goes. Now, I believe, this is just early looking at the numbers, that Dennis is in control simply because of the 903 squat. I think James would have a chance if Dennis has any hiccups in the bench and the deadlift. And I told Dennis this last night, if he could hit a second bench and a second deadlift, he's, I believe, going to have it just because of the Wilks coefficient. But it will come down to how the rest of the competition goes. And so you know also as a comment here, Brian, the Superman and Superwoman is the same concept, except they also have a Sinclair formula, which is a weightlifting coefficient. So the 5-bar lifters are getting a score using the Sinclair formula, and they're getting a score using the Wilks formula, and the two combined is what determines the Superman and Superwoman. James Matthews won it yesterday.
So, I mean, to oversimplify things, Dr. Anderson, I guess the way to look at this is if you're in a similar weight class, if you're a 175-pound lifter lifting the same amount of weight as a 180-pound lifter, according to the coefficient, you're going to be viewed as a slightly better lifter because you're doing it the same amount of weights, though you are somewhat lighter.
Absolutely, and that's essentially what it comes down to is, you'd get a score, and the lifter who was 5 pounds lighter would just have a higher score if they lifted the same weight. It's much more complex because the formula is not as simple as pound for pound. Some people talk about pound for pound. If you're a 150-pound lifter and you lift 300 pounds, that's double body weight. The formula doesn't match up exactly, so a 150-pound lifter lifting 300 is not equal to a 300-pound lifter lifting 600. But the concept is similar. It's basically trying to determine what would be considered a more impressive performance. Dennis squatting 903 in the super heavyweight category, and James squatting what I believe he ended up with was must have been 622 in the middleweight category. And it's not going to be fair for everybody. Some people are always going to complain.
Let's go ahead and set the scene for what's happening over at platform number 2. You just saw Tiffany Choo just a moment ago connect on her third bench attempt at 57.5. For Choo, she hit at 52.5 on her opening lift in the bench press, missed at 57.5, but she was able to recover at 57.5. Now you're seeing Gabrielle Fundaro. Fundaro has connected at 67.5, 72.5, and is now going to make an attempt of 75 kilos on the bench. She receives the command to bring it upward, does so. We'll put it on the rack. 3 white lights, so she's on at 75 as she has completed her 3 lifts in the bench press. First flight on platform number 2 of the bench press. We'll be starting the first flight of bench presses on platform number 3 here in just a little bit. While we've got an opportunity, I want to say hello to Elite Iron Sports Performance in Buford, Georgia, as being a part of the broadcast today at the 5-bar Showdown. Elite Iron Sports Performance is located at 4296 Old Sewanee Road in Buford. You can reach out by calling 770-714-5957. That's 770-714-5957. A special thanks to Elite Iron Sports Performance for their support of this year's 5-bar Showdown. So it'll be Joanne De La Rosa making her first attempt, the second flight. I should say that's the first lift over on platform number 3 as Rebecca Thomas connects at 30 kilos for her first lift. Now, so we're taking a look right now at the second platform. That's Madison Senior. Madison Senior will be making her first attempt at 52.5 kilos. Now we'll go back to platform 3, where that's going to be Caitlin Cavan making her first attempt at 45 kilos. So Cavan waiting on the score, and the screen has not changed out. So we'll take it back over to platform number 2 for Madison Senior. Senior with the command and the lift. 3 white lights, so she's on the board at 52.5. The lift for Cavan was good at 45. So Erin Burdett will come on platform number 3 here in just a moment to make her first attempt. Burdett earlier in this session completed a squat of 110 kilos, so that's the number she'll carry to the bench. It's over on now on platform 3. Burdett, first attempt at 47.5. Gets the command, now takes it up. She'll put it on the rack. And the lift is good. Burdett, 47.5 kilos, is on the board. Now we'll take it to platform number 2. Elise Smith, 57.5 for her first attempt. 3 white lights, so she's on the board. A good lift there. Dr. Patrick Anderson here along with myself, Brian Rushing. So glad that you could join us today for day 2 of the 2018 5-bar Showdown. Dr. Anderson, I would imagine that of the 3 disciplines, the bench press is the most technical, perhaps just because of the types of things that are going on between the spotters, the judges, and the lifter themselves.
That'd be an interesting debate. I think most powerlifters would say the squat is the most difficult to perform just because the movement is so more complex in terms of having to be able to keep your balance and break parallel. Where the bench is a little bit more unique is it's the one that's much more involved in terms of the judge's commands. You know, in the deadlift, you just pull it up and there's a down signal. You don't have to wait for the judge. In the squat, you're getting a start and a rack, but in the bench, you're getting a start, rack, and a press. So picture in the squat, if you had to go down below parallel and then a judge said come up, that would be much more challenging. So I would say the unique aspect in the bench is that there's a lot more involvement in terms of the judge. Now, the bench also tends to be a lift that is a naturally gifted lift, that a lot of lifters are just built for the bench initially, but I always found for me, the longer I went on, just getting, you know, bigger and stronger just allowed my bench to develop more actually into my 30s and even into my 40s. So you'll see some masters lifters putting up tremendous bench performances.
So watching over on platform number 3, Nicole LaRue at 57.5. She got 3 white lights on her first lift. It's over now Anna Smith on platform number 2 at 60 kilos. She gets 3 white lights, so she's on the board at 60. As now both platforms here fully involved in the bench press. And then if you can hear in some background noise, we've still got the weightlifting side of things going over on the first platform. Ironically enough, our most clear view of what's transpiring is actually with the weightlifting side of this, so we can sneak a peek over there from time to time while we're watching our monitors here. Is over on platform number 3,
well, and
Katie Felton.
Don't tell Dr. Trey Cunningham, but I've been sneaking a peek because I'm studying for this afternoon's Superwoman, and this woman that's actually lifting on the weightlifting platform, Megan Valentine, is last year's Superwoman champion. So we're going to see her this afternoon in the powerlifting portion. So I am kind of cheating a little bit, Brian, because I'm studying for this afternoon while we're watching the powerlifting as well.
And that's the beauty of the 2-man crew. We can get the doctor who brings such great analysis to the event, gets a sneak peek ahead of time. I just get to bring the play-by-play and just kind of tell people the obvious. So I think we're both uniquely fitted for the roles that we're performing this morning and afternoon. As over on platform number 3, we'll have Danielle Chapman making an attempt at 62.5. As earlier, Felton was able to connect at 62.5.
Yeah, I believe that I'm kind of the mad scientist with a bunch of numbers jumbling in my head, and you can actually like take all the ingredients, and you're the chef that actually makes a presentable meal for the public to be able to enjoy. So, yeah, we need a little bit of both. I know I need somebody to clean up my act, so you're definitely helping me there, Brian. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the same sentiment as well. As Gretchen Patsios will be over on platform number 3. Chapman did connect at 62.5. I find myself oftentimes doing broadcasts of this nature being little more than an air traffic controller. I've got a lot of big names to contend with at each and every powerlifting meet, and it's my job to make sure they get on the ground safely and so they can get their point across, and then we move forward.
Yeah, and when you're doing this, you're coming into a whole diversity of commentators that are joining you because, yeah, powerlifting, the different people that you have to work with. I can imagine you're quite the air traffic controller, so I'll try and make your job a little bit easier.
Myers over on platform number 2 connects at 65 kilos, so we'll take now a look at Patsios. Gretchen Patsios making a first attempt at 65 kilos. 3 white lights, so she's on the board. As Kimberly McLaughlin over on platform number 2 will join them in just a second as she'll be making an attempt at 65 kilos.
We just saw Big Dennis Cornelius lumber by, looking no worse for the wear. So Kate and Ava, if you're still watching back home or taking a break before the bench, Dad will be getting ready to bench in probably, I imagine, about an hour or so.
McLaughlin at 65 kilos connects on platform number 2, and we'll flip it over quickly to Alex Beasley. I'll give you the idea of Beasley. Beasley over on platform number 3, 3 white lights there, so she's on the board at 67.5. Well, I've got an opportunity. I want to thank another one of our sponsors, Active Care Atlanta Chiropractic, is happy to partner with the 5-Bar Showdown this year. Located in Johns Creek, Active Care Atlanta can be found on Twitter and Facebook, but you can also find them at activecareatlanta.com or simply give them a call at 770-559-4236. That's 770-559-4236. Again, thanks to Active Care Atlanta Chiropractic for their support of the 5-Bar Showdown. It's Christy Llewellyn over on platform number 3, awaiting over on platform number 2. Allison Weinberg will be coming up for her first attempt at 67.5 kilos. This will be Weinberg over on platform number 2, approaching the bench. Weinberg put together a very solid effort on the squat, connecting at 145 earlier, much to her delight.
Yeah, she was the one, Brian, that we were impressed because she left room on the platform. She hit 319 squat, and it appeared like there was at least another 5 kilos. So
145, a very efficient 145 for Weinberg. Which I guess, Dr. Anderson, I'm sorry to cut you off. The question I would ask is, did she leave maybe a little bit in the tanks because she feels like that she's in such a good position from the bench press that she wants to leave that little bit extra because she can go for an ambitious total over on the bench?
Well, looking ahead, typically, Brian, you would save it for the deadlift because the bench muscles are different from the squat. So most lifters that conserve in the squat, it's for the deadlift. Her opening deadlift is 352, which is a sizable. I mean, you're talking a 319 squat was impressive, but an opener at 352. So maybe you're right that she's planning on pulling upwards of 400. It's also a situation, I'm not really familiar with her from previous meets. Is she just new and developing and getting so strong that it's hard to always know what you're capable of? But it was noticeable that she left room on the bar on that third attempt.
Jazzylyn Pepper over on platform number 2. 70 kilos is her first salvo in the bench press. 3 white lights, so she's on the board with a 70. Very clean. It's Rebecca Thomas over on platform number 3. She connected at 30 kilos on her first attempt. Second at 35, 3 white lights, so she's 2 for 2 in the bench press this morning. So we've got 2 platforms setting their weights. Is coming on will be Joanne De La Rosa. Her second attempt. She Finished her squat at 95 kilos, made the first bench attempt at 42 and a half.
You can get used to white lights for a good bit, Brian. What we were talking about yesterday in the afternoon with Dr. David Bell is that the research shows that women lifters tend to make more lifts than the men, and the bench pressers in a full meet tend to make more than the bench pressers in a single lift meet. So you're going to notice throughout this group in the bench that we're going to see made lift after made lift. I've announced bench flights where the women hit every lift through all 3 rounds, which is a rare occurrence, but you see it a lot more in the bench in the women's Raw division.
Well, and right on the money there, we see 2 consecutive lifts of 3 white lights. As you had 2 very solid lifts. Cavan on platform number 3.
Yeah, I don't believe we've seen a missed bench in either flight so far. We're on second attempt, but I don't believe we've had a miss yet.
Madison Senior on platform number 2 at the moment. 57 and a half is her second bench offering. Take it over to platform number 3 where Erin Burdett will make an attempt at 52 and a half.
Boy, for a minute there I thought I had jinxed myself, but she made the lift, so not a lot left in her though.
So Burdett avoids the whammy of Dr. Anderson. She connects on that second offering.
You ever watch a basketball game, Brian, and the announcer goes,
I've done it.
This player has not missed a free throw in 43 attempts.
I can't tell you the number of times I've done it at the college games that I would broadcast a 90% better shooter or not, mention that stat, and no sooner than it happens, a missed free throw, and you feel awful about it.
And the ironic part is the lifter, or in that case the player, has no idea what you're doing. It has no bearing, but it just sounds like whenever you mention it that's what happens.
Absolutely. I had nothing to do with them missing the free throw, and I still feel awful every time I do it to them. It's over on platform number 2. Elise Smith waiting on her numbers. Gets 3 white lights. So Smith on the board at 60 kilos.
When Dave Bell and I did the reverse to that yesterday, we had a lifter who had Chase Cofield had missed his opening squat and then came back and hit it, missed his opening bench and came back and hit it. So when he came out for his deadlift, we said, okay, so far today he hasn't made an opener. So let's see if he can get on the board. And then, of course, he made his deadlift opener, and then he went on to hit his second as well. So maybe that's the trick, is we need to just reverse it and say, when a lifter's missed the lift, well, they've already missed the lift, and we'll see if we can get them to turn it back on the board.
Platform number 2 is where we are. Cannot connect on the lift there. So we'll have Nicole LaRue, a 60-kilo attempt. 3 white lights there, so she's on with her second attempt as she went from 57.5 kilos to 60.
Yeah, platform 3 is still pitching a perfect game, but now we do have 1 miss on platform 2.
Danielle Chapman will be up next on platform number 3. But before we have that, we'll have Nicola Tucci over on platform number 2. Tucci connected at 60. She'll make an attempt at 62 and a half. Elise Smith was not able to connect there. She'll try to connect on that second lift attempt. So Tucci will engage her lift almost simultaneously with Danielle Chapman. Tucci trying, and she won't be able to do it. Chapman at 65 kilos gets 3 white lights. So Chapman is on the board at 65. Tucci could not connect at 62 and a half. So consecutive misses over on platform number 2 at 62 and a half kilos. So we've got 3 platforms of action here with the second day of the 2018 5-bar Showdown. Again, special thanks to Team Rohr Powerlifting and Williams Weightlifting USA. This is essentially their baby. They put their minds together, brought the best of both worlds into the same venue, and it's been off to quite a great first 2 years of the event. I'll be interested to see what happens to this event and year 5 and in year 10 is already the profile of athletes that are here continues to broaden and get more prolific.
Yeah, it was a noticeable difference this year that there was a greater increase in the level of competition and depth, both in the Superman, Superwoman 5-bar, but also just the additional of like Bonica and Dennis Cornelius and some of the other lifters we've seen who aren't in the 5-bar but are here in the competition. So
Christina Myers is able to connect on her lift, 3 white lights as she goes from 65 to 67.5. That'll bring up Gretchen Patsios over on number 3.
what I want to do is challenge someone out there on our side, the powerlifters, because it seems like the weightlifters are dominating the Superman, Superwoman, is if you're a top-ranked powerlifter, you know, there's $1,500 on the line for you to just get a little bit of proficiency in the weight lifts, Olympic lifts. You could, with your sizable advantage in the power lifts, come in and take the Superman or Superwoman next year. So there's a lot of good powerlifters out there who should jump on the chance at that.
It was over on platform number 2, T.L. McCord, not able to connect on her second offering at 70 kilos. And, you know, Dr. Anderson, you raise a very intriguing point, because when you're looking at a Superman scenario, 60% of the competition is a powerlifting discipline. So you would think the more elite powerlifters would have at least the slightest advantage over a Olympic-style weightlifter.
Absolutely. That's my point, is that it's really an advantage to us because you're lifting bigger weights in powerlifting. So the advantage that you're going to get is going to be significant on the overall total, not to mention, as you said, simple math, 60% of the lifts, 3 out of the 5 are done on your disciplines. So, for instance, someone like Dennis Cornelius, if he chose to do it, and I did forget to ask him this last night, if he would have just done very mild, 135 snatch, 225 clean and jerk, which he could do with virtually no training at all, I think that might have been enough to win the Superman with the dominance of his powerlifting total.
So we're back on platform number 2. Allison Weinberg, who connected at 67.5, will make an attempt at 70. Christy Llewellyn will be over on platform number 3 here in just a moment. Felton missed her second attempt on the bench at 75. Weinberg will wait on the commands. She'll put it back on the rack. Platform number 2, Allison Weinberg, 3 white lights, so she's on at 70 kilos. Over on platform number 3, Llewellyn did not connect at 70 kilos on the squat, so she'll carry a total with her of 45 into the deadlift. There's already the third rotation happening over on platform number 3. Second flight here is what we have on platform number 2. Platform number 2 will have Kimberly McLaughlin making an attempt of 75 kilos. Connected at 65.
We're going to do a math class later here, Brian, because there's some debate on whether we're correct that a powerlifter would have an advantage in the 5-bar.
Oh, I could just, when we discussed it just a second ago, it's like the entire table started chattering about it. I'm surprised it doesn't make its way to social media, which it easily could.
Well, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's already done the math, and it's telling me that I'm a fool. But my question would be, based on what Dennis totaled yesterday, his Wilks, which I believe they said was 565, 567, what would he have needed to beat James Matthew on James Matthew's total for the Superman? What would Dennis have needed to do in the weightlifts? And I surmise that it wouldn't have been a significant amount, and it would have been something he could have potentially done with little or no training. Now, that doesn't mean if you took a Caleb Williams-style elite weightlifter versus an elite powerlifter, then I think it would be more comparable.
You've got Jazzylyn Pepper out on platform number 2. She will not be able to connect on her second attempt at 75 kilos, so she will keep 70 as her number. She'll have a third attempt coming up in just a little bit. And I would imagine somewhere in the world there's a powerlifting and a weightlifting podcast taking place that's getting ready to tackle that same subject coming up in the next few days. As we say good morning to you from the Meadowcreek Arena here in Norcross, Georgia. Brian Rushing here along with the Dr. Patrick Anderson. So glad that you could join us today, as it's been a great start to day 2. A phenomenal finish to day 1 yesterday. And already we're off to a good start here in day 2. So glad that you could join us, as we've got 2 channels going on YouTube. We've got a weightlifting side across the way here. We've got the powerlifting side here. So glad that you could join us, as you've got Erin Burdett over on platform number 3, her third attempt at 60.
So Brian, what I'm envisioning is the post headlined, "Why Dr. Anderson is a complete idiot," and then it's explaining how what I'm saying is actually incorrect. Now, in hearing some of the thoughts of some of what the dissenters on our stage are telling us, I can at least see where you and I were saying it not factually correct, in the sense when we're saying 60% of the lifts contribute to the total because there's 3 power lifts. That would be true if you were taking an actual weight lifted. So you were combining the powerlifting total, the weight lifted versus the weightlifting total, and then determining a winner, because yes, you get 60% from the weights. Because it's a formula, it is somewhat equalized. Where I contend there is a problem is in elite powerlifting, Wilks is a much higher number. I believe the Sinclair numbers that are the top ones are in the 200 to 300 pound, 200 to 300 Sinclair formula range, whereas Wilks are in the 500 to 600 range. So I'm viewing it as you're getting a much greater total opportunity. In other words, when you win by a sizable margin in powerlifting, your Wilks is much greater than the second place, whereas a sizable margin in Sinclair is going to be a narrower gap, just because the numbers aren't as great. But it's going to come down to math. What we would just need is to take a couple of lifters and run the numbers on what would it take for an elite weightlifter to do in powerlifting to win this competition, and then what would it take for an elite powerlifter to do in weightlifting to win the competition.
Nicole LaRue on platform number 3 was not able to connect at 62.5. She'll still take a 60 with her to the deadlift coming up here in just a little bit. As you saw, Elise Smith over on platform number 2 not able to connect at 62.5 either. But I would say this, and I'm just conjecturing here because I'm just the play-by-play guy, but I would say this: the comfort level for the power lifter and having 3/5 of the disciplines coordinated in their program would certainly create for them at least an advantage from the comfort of not having to translate over to the other side of the world, if you will.
Yeah, and that would be a good argument on your side, that you're only having to pick up 2 lifts instead of 3. But in reverse, most of us would agree that weightlifters have a much better experience or more proficiency in the power lifts, the squat and the deadlift, than a power lifter would in the weight lifts, because virtual power lifters can go their whole career, and I'm an example of that, with doing no weightlifting whatsoever in terms of the overhead lifts. Whereas by the nature of weightlifting, you're already doing squatting and deadlifting in some form. So the bench press is really the only lift that would be a complete picking up of a new exercise.
Danielle Chapman over on platform number 3 connected at 67.5. T.L. McCord there on platform number 2 was not able to connect on 70. So McCord will take a 60-kilo bench press into her deadlift total. As we'll have over on platform number 3, Alex Beasley. Beasley connected at 62. Let me make sure I'm looking at this right. Connected at 67.5 and 72.5, making an attempt of 75 kilos right now.
And since Dr. Trey Cunningham doesn't have the headphones on, I want to get another little dig in, because as a coach, I would argue that the last lift of the competition, which in powerlifting is the deadlift, gives you the advantage because you know what you need. In the Superman, by the nature of the way the contest takes place, your final lift performed is the power lifts, so you know what you need going into the power lifts. Now, you could make the argument, what if we flipped it? What if they contested the power lifts in the morning and the weightlifting in the afternoon? They just haven't done that, and there's not really a reason why. It's a sport that Josh and Trey have almost created themselves. Josh and Caleb, they could do it any way they wanted, but the way it's been contested, the power lifts go last, which means you would know what you need in performing the power lifts, as opposed to the weightlifters don't know at the time of their lifts what they're going to need to win.
Over on platform number 3, Katie Felton gets 3 white lights, so she missed at 75 on her second attempt. Her third attempt was good at 75, so she'll carry that to the deadlift.
Not that we want to encourage you to change channels, but we're watching the weightlifting right in front of us, and the lifter on the platform, Holly Kimball, was the runner-up last year, the silver medalist in the Superwoman total. So we've already seen Megan Valentine. So at least we know, Brian, that this afternoon the returning gold and silver medalists are back in the competition this year. It'll be interesting to see who else is there to threaten to knock them off the platform and the podium for the title.
Holly Kimball was very solid last year. I had an opportunity to bring that powerlifting portion of the Superwoman event last year. Patsios over on platform number 3 cannot complete her third offering, so she'll take 72.5 kilos with her to the deadlift. It's now on platform number 2, Allison Weinberg. Connected at 67.5, connected at 70, looking for 72.5, already has 145 in pocket from the squats.
Yeah, looking to go 6 for 6, Brian, and she had room on her third squat, so let's see how she does in the bench. Lifted good, 2-1. She pushed the bench a little bit more. I would say, though, maybe 2.5 kilos might have been there, but that was getting closer to her max. But she's 6 for 6, Brian.
And building momentum for the deadlift and has good numbers to take with her into that deadlift segment. So we see over on platform number 3, Christy Llewellyn. Llewellyn missed 2 out of 3 on the squat, carried a 45 with her there, but now in the bench, 82.5, 87.5, 92.5 was the attempt. She was not able to complete that, so she'll take 87.5 with her to the deadlift.
Going back to Allison, that'd be an example, Brian, that would be interesting to see. How would she do next year if she did the 5-bar? So if she ends up watching this broadcast later, if this is something that she has any experience or wants to pick up, because she's so proficient in the power lifts. And again, we've discussed this earlier. This is somewhat stereotyping, but there's accuracy in this. Women tend to be more flexible, especially lighter women. So picking up the weight lifts would be not as challenging as a larger, for instance, a lifter like Dennis Cornelius would have to really develop flexibility to do the overhead lifts. And so it's very possible someone like Allison maybe has a little experience in the weight lifts or could pick it up enough where if she was just at a moderate level, not an elite level, her power lifts would overwhelm the total because she's so proficient. And that's what I'd like to start seeing down the road is what's going to happen when you're getting higher and higher quality of either discipline crossing over.
Ashley Yost over on platform number 3. Her first bench press attempt will be at 70 kilos.
And I still claim Caleb Williams needs to put his money where his mouth is, and he needs to get in this competition because I think he would destroy. He would be the perfect, being light, he has a great formula, and being so proficient in the power lifts and the weight lifts.
Jazzylyn Pepper is not going to be able to complete her third attempt. So she connected on her first lift at 70 kilos, missed consecutive attempts at 75. So that's what she'll carry to the deadlift, as we'll have Deanna Gerdsmeyer come on her first attempt. Of course, we saw her earlier in the squat. She was 2 for 3 in the squats. She took a 160 total with her, missed at 162.5. So this will be her opening salvo at 75 kilos. So glad that you could join us today as Platform 2 has come to a close with the bench press. So now we're bench press exclusively on number 3. We'll be preparing for the deadlift in just a moment over on platform number 2.
Which means we get to start powerlifting again. I know I take cheap shots at the benches. That's okay.
Gerdsmeyer. Waiting on the scoring there. Gerdsmeyer will connect at 75, so she's on the board, has a qualifying score. And now Trish Foote will come on with her first attempt at 82.5 kilos. A day full of action here today is, I would say that by the time we're all said and done and packing up all the gear and equipment for the broadcast, probably up until about 5 o'clock perhaps is where we'll be.
Yeah, today should end a little bit earlier than yesterday. I believe the lifting completed around 6:30 maybe. As I said, women tend to get to the bar quicker. They tend to move faster, especially the lighter women. It appears like there's a little bit less lifters in the afternoon session, so I think that we'll keep moving at a quicker pace. And most importantly, we didn't have a tornado or a power outage or whatever happened. It had to slow things down yesterday.
Got off to a little bit of a rocky start because of the weather yesterday. This broadcast was delayed, I believe, close to an hour and a half. Yesterday in the morning session, we were able to get things back to working in a proper order and everything, but no problems today. Did have a little storm action roll through the Atlanta Metro last night. Brought some more rain, but really nothing more than that. We were able to start on time with everything here as we're over at platform number 3 as Elizabeth Turner, after Footit connected at 82.5, will make an attempt, her first attempt, at 85 kilos.
Yeah, you'll appreciate, Brian, Dennis Cornelius was happy that we at least came online for his third attempt squat yesterday. Because I asked him, he was telling me he was seeing the broadcast. I said, oh, you got to watch it. He said, well, once you guys came online. I said, ooh, he got me on that one. I said, well, we made sure we got your third attempt. So
3 white lights for Turner.
Yeah, commendations to Josh Rohr, Caleb Williams, and Dr. Trey Cunningham for just being on the ball, because with all that happened yesterday, you know, there was a definite little bit of a hiccup, but the meet just kept moving. It was just, you know, keep going, just find a way.
Well, there was a little bit of improvisation going on there, but I mean, it took some bright minds and it took a lot of effort to make the event go pretty much without a significant delay, and then able to get the broadcast going. A lesser broadcast would not have gotten off the ground yesterday.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, there was enough problems yesterday that I've been at meets in the past where the meet director would have just canceled the meet and shut things down. So Josh doesn't really view it that way. His attitude was, what do we need to do to make it work? There was never even a thought of canceling the meet. And so, you know, I mean, this was not just a mild situation. We were working on emergency power lights in the Meadowcreek arena, in the gymnasium we were in. I mean, this was a serious situation.
Roshan connects over at platform number 3 at 85 kilos. That'll bring up Milena Schaefer. Schaefer, her first attempt will be at 92.5 kilos. She carried a squat total of 222.5 with her.
Yeah,
so
these
we'll
next
wait on
four
her first opportunity. Sorry about that.
These next 4 lifters are the back-to-back superstars. So we're going to see Milena, Bonica, James, and Dennis. And Dennis, interestingly enough, just a little jumping ahead, Brian, he told me last night he was planning on opening without a shirt just to get in the competition and then put his shirt on. They've got him down for a 5:34 opener, which is it's a pretty good opener for someone without a shirt, considering he did 5:62. So I'll be curious to see if he does put his shirt on. But how about this for Milena? This is 200-pound opener in the women's division. Gives you significant understanding of the greatness of Jennifer Thompson. Jennifer Thompson in the women's division is actually benching more than 100 pounds over what Milena just did.
Schaefer with a good lift there at 92.5 kilos. So she gets her first offering up and running, and Bonica Brown will come up with her first attempt in the bench, 140 kilos.
And this is after a 600-pound squat. So how about a subtotal after just one bench that she's going to have of 909? It's not far off to imagine Bonica with 1,000-pound subtotal raw at some point. I mean, you just have to understand how amazing that is.
And right now, all eyes on Bonica Brown as the weightlifting on platform number 1 has come to a close for the moment. Platform number 2 is preparing for the deadlift. So now all eyes on Bonica Brown at just the right time.
And this is
they're engaged in the bench.
This is the first time I've gotten to see Bonica from this angle as a side view for a super heavyweight powerlifter, tremendous flexibility. I mean, she has a gigantic arch. Typically in the men's and women's, when you get to be bigger lifters, there's just not as much of an arch. So not only is she strong, and like I said before, she's taking tremendous athletic ability and mastering a technique where she just smoked that bench press. You'd have to figure that she's going to be upwards of 350 today, Brian.
Well, she got 3 white lights there on the opener. And you talked about the arch and the lifting of the chest on the bench press. What, to those that aren't necessarily familiar with what impact that has on a lift, explain it to everybody tuning in.
It's essentially shortening the distance. What you're looking for, Brian, in our sport is to be able to minimize the length that you have to push the bar. It's the premise behind moving your stance out in the squat, your stance out in the deadlift. So in the bench, Bonica takes a wider grip, and then she has a tremendous arch, so it just means she doesn't have to move the bar as far. But that's not common in the super heavyweights. Now, women tend to be more flexible than men, but I had a side angle view, and that's the biggest arch I've ever seen on a super heavyweight, man or woman, maybe in my entire career. I was blown away. And then she smoked the lift. Now, this is James Vang with a 407 opener. He, I predict, is going to have to pitch a perfect game. He's going to have to hit almost every lift to be able to hold on, to be able to take the money out of Dennis's pocket. And the lift is good, 3 white lights.
3 white lights, so he's in at 185, and that'll bring up Dennis Cornelius, the Millennium Man of yesterday, is on the board at 410, and the squat will make a first attempt at 242 and a half.
All right, ladies in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Megan and Kate and Ava. Dennis has got 534 opener. Now, it appears from what I'm looking at that he doesn't have his shirt on. I'm a good bit away, but I know he had mentioned that last night. I thought he would open lighter without his shirt just to save his energy. But again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Dennis is a little bit different than the rest of us. And so whereas I'm thinking, you know, you might not want to open this heavy to save your strength, 534, I guess, just isn't that big of a deal to Dennis. And so
I can tell you over on platform number 2, they've just gotten started. Stacy Metcalfe at 145 on the deadlift. We'll wait on the score here in just a little bit. She did connect at 65 kilos in the first deadlift, so she's on the board. So we'll take it back now to number 3 as Dennis Cornelius.
And yesterday he opened at 545, and I actually was surprised that he didn't seem as explosive. It's hard to imagine that a guy on his second day of lifting, he actually looked more powerful on that lift. So now we're going to see him put a shirt on, and who knows where he's going to go. I'm expecting he's going to have to go close to 600, probably maybe 584, 595, just to be able to get it to touch.
So Ashley Yost will step up for her second bench attempt. They have just gotten things started over on the deadlift at platform number 2.
I know Dennis had mentioned to me about 633 in the bench. I was assuming that was for a third attempt, but it'll be interesting to see if he's getting that much out of his shirt. Is he going to jump all the way over 6, putting that shirt on and being able to come back on a second attempt?
Yost connected at 70 kilos. I can tell you over on platform number 2, Catherine Valli connected on her first deadlift at 90 kilos. Yost finishes her second lift at 75. She gets 3 white lights, so she improves her number to 75. As we had that brief moment to where there was only one platform, and now just like that, we've got 3 platforms running again, and everyone's attention is somewhat divided.
Yeah, a little bit of a news flash here, Brian. So Dennis put in 551 for his second attempt bench. So clearly he's not putting his shirt on. That would lead me to believe he's not going to put his shirt on at all. I would be surprised if he would do it just for his third attempt. The only thing I can think there is that he's just figuring he needs enough to be able to win the money and isn't going to push it. But I know he was planning on putting his shirt on today.
So Deanna Gerdsmeyer on her second attempt, 80 kilos, 3 white lights there. Over on number 2, You had Tiffany Choo, who connected on her lift, her first offering in the deadlift. She's on at 112.5. As the action. This is an intriguing part of the event when you have one side doing bench and the other side doing deadlift. As the pacing gets a little weird in regards to the two lifts. As Gabrielle Fundaro is going to be over on platform number 2. I can give you the information as it relates to her, as Elizabeth Turner will engage in her second bench, a 90-kilo attempt.
Yeah, Elizabeth's been impressive. I've seen her lift a couple occasions before. I believe she did this meet last year. She's consistent in her technique, and that's almost a 200-pound bench, 198.
3 white lights there, so she's on at 90 kilos. Gabrielle Fundaro, her first attempt, 117.5. Lands it, so she's on the board with her first lift. Trish Foote will make her second attempt in the bench. She was on at 82.5 earlier. Now she'll get her second offering, and she'll make the jump to 90. As Foote will prepare.
This is an example of a narrow grip here on platform 3. Look at Trish Foote's grip here, Brian. This is what we'd call a closed grip bench.
Not able to finish the lift as she will miss at 90. She'll get a third opportunity if she chooses to in a little bit to replicate the attempt. This coming up will be Melissa Cederburg on platform number 2 for her first deadlift of the day.
On the weightlifting platform in front of us here is Megan Valentine. I mentioned earlier she was the gold medalist, the money winner last year in the Superwoman total. She was just unsuccessful on her second clean and jerk.
Cederburg misses on her first deadlift attempt at 140. Serena Roshan will come on for her second bench press. She connected at 85. She'll be making this attempt at 90. She'll put it on the rack. We'll wait for the judges. 3 white lights, so she's on at 90. The Stacle Metcalfe will be over at platform number 2 for her second offering in the deadlift. So Metcalfe, who missed at 140, making a second attempt at 142.5.
That's also to keep her in 5th place there, Brian. So if you're watching at home and you're a Stacle Metcalfe fan, she's battling to try and hold on to the top 5.
Elena Schaefer will come on. She'll make the jump of 10 kilos, connected at 92.5, will now go to 102.5.
Megan Valentine right in front of us, successful in her third clean and jerk. She will definitely be in the hunt for the Superwoman later today.
Schaefer not able to complete the lift, so she stays at 92.5. So we want to thank Team Rohr Powerlifting for their work in the 5-bar showdown. Of course, they have a phenomenal social media presence on Facebook and Instagram. You can find them at Team Rohr, or you can just go to the website, www.teamrohr.com. Special thanks to Team Rohr Powerlifting for their support of the 2018 5-bar showdown.
So earlier I felt Bonica had 350 in her. She's jumping to 330. Based on what I saw in her opener, I would suspect this will not be a problem. Now the one thing, Brian, you do notice with the significant arch lifters is it is critical that she can get in that right groove, because if you're used to an arch in a short movement and occasionally whatever the bench design or you just don't get the same arch, can make a dramatic difference. But she's been so on point on her technique. You can see she's really locking everything in. I suspect this lift's going to have room to spare. Not as smoked as the opener, but still a controlled lift. I don't know if I believe 352 is there now. It depends how good her lockout is. I would suspect a 5 kilo jump that she would maybe move that up to about 341.
So Brown is on at 195 with her second attempt. Catherine Valli was able to make her second deadlift attempt on platform number 2 at 100 kilos.
James Vang's got 429, so he and Dennis are battling for the $750 prize money in the men's equipped division, the overall pound for pound.
Zvang connected earlier at 185. This attempt at 195, you see Tiffany Choo. Tiffany Choo gets 3 white lights there, so she's on at 117 and a half as we go back to Vang now.
What you'll notice here a lot, Brian, when they're in the tight bench shirts is the heavier weight sometimes will allow him to get to his chest a little easier. And you can see a second attempt sometimes go up easier than the opener. Almost looked like on his opener he had a little bit of an issue through the transition at the top. Not a strength issue, but more technique. Exactly what I thought. Now at the top there was a little bit of an unlock. Let's see if they caught that. Yeah, he got 2 reds. He smoked the lift, but it appeared like, Brian, he locked it out almost so fast that he then unbuckled his elbows, bent them slightly, and then relocked out. Now they also looked like one of the judges pointed to that he might have lifted his butt off the bench.
Which is a no-no.
Yeah, from our angle, we wouldn't be able to catch that, but I just saw the chief referee pointing that out.
That might work at the local gym, but not at the 5-bar showdown. It's Gabrielle Fundaro.
Yeah, hers was turned down too. That was a situation, Brian, where she locked it out, came a little bit unlocked out. Sometimes the lifters at the top aren't staying under control. We've got Dennis Cornelius with 551. Dennis Cornelius with 551 on his third attempt. So he is going out without a shirt again, which is essentially what he did yesterday. He did 562. No problem for Dennis. It was not, I wouldn't say easier than the opener, but still a controlled lift. I would suspect he has about what he did yesterday, 562 in him. Would be surprised if he would go and put a shirt on at this point, but we'll at least keep an eye out for that.
250 is what he has on the board through 2 offerings. And now we'll go into the third rotation here on the bench. So we want to say hello to New Care Physical Therapy. They're one of the sponsors of the 2018 5-Bar Showdown. They're your go-to in the metro Atlanta area for physical therapy, dry needling, rehabilitation, and functional movement screen. Located in Norcross, Georgia. You can set up your appointment by calling New Care Physical Therapy at 678-718-5240, or you can go online to newcarept.com. The number again, 678-718-5240. New Care Physical Therapy, a proud sponsor of the 5-Bar Showdown. It's Ashley Yost, her third attempt on the bench. Gets the call from the official, cannot finish it. So Yost, who got to 70 in the first and 75 in the second attempt, will have to settle for that going to the deadlift, as her third offering is not completed. Madeline Hanson can't finish her third attempt at 82 and a half, so she'll finish the day with 80 on the deadlift. Dana Gerdsmeyer, over on platform number 3, has connected 2 times in the bench, 75 and 80. This an attempt of 85 kilos.
Yeah, looking to go 3 for 3 after hitting 2 out of 3 squats, so 5 for 6. Be a good subtotal for her.
Gerdsmeyer could not complete at 85 kilos, so she'll take 80 with her into the deadlift. Catherine Valli cannot complete her third deadlift offering. She connected at 90 and 100, tried to make the 10-kilo jump to 110, couldn't do it. So we'll have over on platform number 3, Trish Foote. Foote connected at 82 on her first offering. The second missed at 90, trying to replicate the attempt, trying to successfully get to 90 before going.
She didn't even get this moving much on her last attempt, so it's going to be tough to come back for her. She actually got it a little farther off, but a little just too much weight on that one, Brian.
So she'll take 82 and a half with her to the deadlift as Tiffany Choo comes on for her third deadlift attempt. She made right at 112 and a half, 117 and a half. And she is not going to be able to get to 127 and a half. So a smile on her face despite the miss. So we'll have Gabrielle Fundaro coming up here in just a moment. Elizabeth Turner over on platform number 3. We'll tell you what, we'll go to that one. It's Turner, an attempt of 95. Is able to battle through it. See what the judges say. 3 white lights, so she's on at 95 kilos. She had a perfect bench segment here in this morning's session.
It was a good-looking third for Elizabeth. Very good third bench, strong, controlled, a little bit left on the bar.
Fundaro.
Nice lockout. Let's see if that counted. Yeah, good lift.
3 white lights, so she's excited. She's now at 137 and a half. So we'll go to Roshan. Roshan is on the board at 92 and a half on the bench. Missed at 102 and a half, so she's taking a second offering at it. You see Melissa Cederburg for a moment coming on. Cederburg, after Roshan goes 3 white lights there, so she's on at 102 and a half, so she's able to make amends for the miss at 102 and a half. Cederburg at 147 and a half has come to the close of her day. Madison Senior. You can see her.
Madison looks very happy to be powerlifting today, Brian. Good for her.
Absolutely. Especially to answer the bell that early in the day. It's Milena Schaefer now. Schaefer missed at 102 and a half her last time out.
Yeah, it's a tough comeback to ask in the bench when you miss on strength without a technical error or a judge's rule infraction to come back and hit. So we'll see if she's able to.
So Schaefer able to make it happen. She's on at 102 and a half. So solid effort there for Schaefer to come back and get that third offering to go.
Now Bonica is going 336. I had predicted 341. I think this is a wise choice. She clearly knows what her capabilities are, and she's a world-class lifter. What it's going to come down to is she's got a good, solid lockout. She's got to be able to get the bar moving off her chest.
You see Joanne De La Rosa. Madison Senior, her first attempt at 112 and a half was good. Now De La Rosa, her first deadlift attempt at 115. De La Rosa
Let me set the stage here, Brian, for Bonica. This lift would exceed her own existing world record in a bench press. This is not an international competition, so it wouldn't be an official world record. But what you're about to witness here is more weight than has ever been lifted in the history of powerlifting by a female in the raw category. This is 336. And I think 41 might have been there. That was a solid lockout.
3 white lights and a shot over the bow to the powerlifting world.
Yeah, how about that for a subtotal? 900, and what would that be? Almost a 937 subtotal.
It's Rebecca Gilbert. Her first offering is good at 117.5. So an impressive Bonica Brown has been utterly more impressive today.
Yeah, I would say for the greatness that she had coming into the competition, she's exceeded that. 6 for 6, a 600 squat, a world record exceeding 336 bench press. Yeah, Bonica's definitely put on quite a show. And to be clear, because I had mentioned how difficult it is, she's also world class in equipped powerlifting. So she's been dominant in raw lifting, but she has also competed equipped. Very much like Blaine Sumner on the men's side, being able to go back and forth is a skill. That is not something that's automatic.
Anna Smith on platform number 2. You saw it just a moment ago, connected at 122.5. Now James Vang making an attempt, his third on the bench at 200.
Yeah, I heard the announcement. This is nearly a triple bodyweight bench, which in our sport is a historical achievement. It's about 2.9 of his body weight. .440, James Vang. Strength was not at all an issue.
3 white lights for Vang. He'll take 200 with him to the deadlift. A very solid effort there. So we're watching the wrap-up of Kimberly McLaughlin's deadlift at 122.5. 3 white lights there, so she's on the board for a good deadlift. And that'll set the scene for that man, Dennis Cornelius.
So just so you're aware of what Dennis's last 24 hours have looked like, an 892 raw squat, a 562 raw bench, a 749 raw deadlift, a 2204 raw total, puts gear on and squats 903, comes up with 925, and now he's actually going for a 562 raw bench.
And the question that I have, Dr. Patrick Anderson, is what was he listening to prior to coming out to the platform?
I believe he's a classical music fan. Maybe it was Mozart, Beethoven. I don't know that to be true. It just sounds good.
Little inside baseball for everybody.
Would be nice to find out. In powerlifting, it could be anything.
And oftentimes is.
Yeah, I've seen lifters use rap music, country music, rock music, whole variety. So believe it or not, history has been made. There are enough plates in the entire state of Georgia that Dennis Cornelius can't lift. That's the first time, like you'd almost believe that it's not possible, but that's the first time that we've seen him today actually not physically complete a lift.
T.L. McCord, platform number 2, 132.5 is her opening salvo in the deadlift. 3 white lights, so she's on the board at 132.5.
Well, I'm not anywhere near the Superman that Dennis Cornelius is. I'm going to actually take a brief break, too, while he's stepping off the platform to get ready for the deadlift.
And with that, I'll carry the rest of the way for the rest of the way as platform number 3 is being set up for the deadlift. I'll take care of some deadlifting here on platform number 2. You see Nicola Tucci, her first attempt at 137.5. Tucci carried 60 off the bench into this discipline. And for Tucci, 3 white lights, so she's on the board at 132.5. And Elise Smith will follow her. I should say 137.5 for Tucci. Elise Smith will now make an attempt at 140. So Smith on platform number 2. Finishes the lift, waits on the judges' scoring. Three white lights. So she's happy about that number as she's on the board at 140 after carrying a 60 with her from the bench. It's one of our title sponsors of the 5-Bar Showdown is Williams Weightlifting, a major piece of this puzzle in the 5-Bar Showdown. It's Caleb Williams out of Beaufort, Georgia. One of the main cogs of this event is Jazzylyn Pepper is on. You can find out more about Williams Weightlifting USA by going to williamsweightlifting.com. Pepper locking out, lays it down. Three white lights, so she's on the board at 145. The action exclusively from the powerlifting side over on platform number 2 as platform number 3 prepares for the deadlift. The weightlifting side of this, where Caleb Williams is hot and heavy as they've had intermittent sessions throughout the morning as we get closer and closer to the noontime hour. Allison Weinberg with her first attempt at 160 kilos. As she has been perfect on the day. 3 for 3 in the squat, 3 for 3 in the bench, and now she'll try to continue that momentum. An impressive day so far for Allison Weinberg. Weinberg at 160, 3 white lights, so she's on the board. As Weinberg now connecting on that lift will now take us back to our second rotation here in the deadlift of this flight. As you see Gino off in the background. So we'll go back to Rebecca Gilbert. At 122.5 will be her second deadlift offering. And Gilbert, not wasting any time, goes right to it. 3 white lights. She moves her number up 5 kilos to 122.5. As we will have plenty of action for you throughout the course of the day, as we've still got a final session here inside of Meadowcreek Arena here in Norcross, Georgia. Madison Senior, second attempt at 122.5. Senior, second offering. 3 white lights. So a smile comes to Senior's face as she's 2 for 2 in the deadlift. Some great camera work going on there, as you can see actually behind the curtain, if you will, to some of the behind the scenes action that you don't oftentimes get to see at most powerlifting events. As Anna Smith will make an attempt of 130 after connecting at 122.5. Smith will not be able to complete the second attempt at 130. See, we can go right into the next offering, as the bar will not change. That'll be Joanne De La Rosa. De La Rosa is good from 115 in her first attempt and made quick work of it. De La Rosa, a little more of an effort there. But she gets the 3 white lights and she's on at 130 kilos. For those of you tracking all of this on social media, of course, the 5-bar showdown. Very simple. Use the hashtag 5, the number 5 bar showdown. And all of your subsequent tweets and Instagram posts throughout the course of the weekend. As Kimberly McLaughlin will make an attempt of 132.5 here as all the action fixates right now on platform number 2. Brian Rushing here with you, bringing you the action on the second day of the 5-bar showdown. McLaughlin, very solid effort from this vantage point. Still waiting on the judges. 2 out of 3 white lights, so the lift is good. So McLaughlin on the board at 132.5 as Christina Myers will look to follow up at 137.5. Is right now platform number 3 is about to get started as Rebecca Thomas will begin the effort in the deadlift. As Thomas here in just a moment will make an effort. Right now our eyes are fixed on Christina Myers at 137.5. Myers, great acceleration to the top. 3 white lights, so Myers is 2 for 2 as she goes from 125 to 137.5. It's Thomas. Still waiting platform number 3. T.L. McCord with her second attempt. Connected at 132.5. This at 140 will not happen. So she'll have 1 remaining attempt in the deadlift. You see Gretchen Patsios making an attempt at 102.5. Patsios, 3 white lights, so she's on the board. So now we've got 2 platforms of deadlifts going. Platform number 2 slightly ahead is Nicola Tucci. Connected at 137.5 first go round. This one at 142.5. And Tucci, 3 white lights, so she moves up to 142.5. Jamie Kofer will be over on platform number 3. She'll make this attempt, her first offering at 105. And she is carrying right now what looks to be a subtotal of 140. She lays it down ever so gently. 3 white lights for Kofer as she's on at 105. Now Elise Smith. And Elise Smith not happy with herself there. As she cannot make that lift at 147.5. Will have a final opportunity to make amends if she chooses to. There's Danielle Chapman at 112.5, her first offering. 3 white lights, so she's on the board. And Jazzylyn Pepper, you can see her approaching the bar on platform number 2. Pepper out of Auburn, Alabama. Her second attempt. She's not going to be able to lock out, as that will be a miss for Pepper at 147.5. Alex Beasley will come on over at platform number 3. 120 is her first offering. And 3 white lights, so she's good. And that'll bring up Allison Weinberg, who you see chatting it up with the officials. Always interesting to see a lot of the stuff you see in the background. Donuts and deadlifts, one of the t-shirt designs here. It's Weinberg connected at 160, now will make an attempt of 172.5. As we welcome back the doctor, Patrick Anderson, after taking a brief little respite to get things dialed in for the deadlift.
And I got some interviews done. I always figure I might as well get a little work done. So what I found out was Dennis did decide not to put the shirt on. That's why he did Raw. He is still planning on pulling and potentially trying to pull for the win. It appears like James Vang actually has the advantage now because of his big bench and Dennis not putting the shirt on. So we'll see come deadlift time what Dennis needs for the win.
Allison Weinberg, number 2, 3 white lights, so she moves up from 160 to 172. I've been impressed by Allison Weinberg. Can't really do any better than what she's been asked to do, as she's 8 for 8 so far on the day.
I tell you what, 9 for 9 in powerlifting is the hardest thing to do, especially hitting the max weight she's hitting. And like I said earlier, it'd be intriguing to see when she finishes, she's going to potentially have the highest women's powerlifting by formula total. What would she do if she added the Superwoman next year?
Katie Felton at 120 kilos seemed to make easy work of it. So she gets 3 white lights, so she's on. And that'll bring up Rebecca Gilbert over on platform number 2 at 127.5. Will be her third offering. That seemed easy enough.
Also had a chance to talk to Bonica Brown, and she's very happy, and she's looking forward to potentially hitting a PR total come deadlift time.
127.5 for Gilbert, as she's now in with her numbers. Madison Senior on platform number 2. We'll watch LaRue first. Nicole LaRue, 120 for her opener on platform number 3. 3 white lights, so she's on the board. Senior with an opportunity here to go from 112.5 to 122.5, here to 127.5. She's carrying right now with her a 177.5 subtotal.
She might get the award so far, Brian, for the happiest lifter of the competition. And there she is, smiling on command. Every time that I see her, she seems to have a big smile on her face. So.
A spirited effort for Madison Senior.
Good for her.
You know, if you couldn't feel good after competing in a powerlifting competition, kind of makes you wonder why you're doing it.
Well, but it helps when you're making a lot of lifts. Oh,
that's always great.
I had a 4 for 9 performance once that still stays with me, and that there's not a smile in that. When you miss more lifts than you make, it's hard to have a good day. But when you go 9 for 9, yeah, it's hard to pry the smile off your face. That's one of the great things about powerlifting, is that kind of I would compare it what we were talking about golf earlier, is you can have a terrible day round of golf, but you hit a good shot and it makes everything seem to be right in the world. And it's the same in powerlifting. The squat and the bench can go bad, but you hit 3 pulls and all of a sudden you feel like you're the strongest man or woman alive.
Caitlin Cavan over on platform number 3. First attempt at 137.5. The scoring 2 out of 3, so she's on the board at 137.5. Joanne De La Rosa on her third attempt. 115 was her opener. 130 was the second, now making an attempt at 137.5.
Looks like she nodded to the head judge as she was lifting. That's an impressive lockout. Now let's see if that's considered a hitch or not. It was a tough lockout. We'll see. She got it to the top. Appears like no lift.
And she misses on her final offering.
One of the rules in the deadlift is you're not allowed to rest the bar on your thighs. The bar has to continue an upward path. It can stop, but you cannot rest it on your thighs when it stops.
Rebecca Thomas on platform number 3, connected at 80 earlier. 3 white lights for 87.5. So Thomas is on the board. It's TL McCord over on platform number 2, tightening everything up for her lift. For McCord, she made good on 132.5 for the opener, missed at 140, but now with an opportunity on her final offering to get back to 140. And she can't do it. So she'll go to 132.5 as Jamie Kofer will now be over on platform number 3. She was good at 105. She'll make an attempt now at 110. Kofer. Looks like there's still some in the tank there, which is good. She'll have a third attempt coming up in just a little bit as she's 3 white lights there at 110. As Kimberly McLaughlin will come on to platform number 2 as she will make a 7.5 kilo jump from 132, which was good on her second attempt, to what would now be 140 if she can connect.
116 is on the bar and loaded for Holland.
McLaughlin at 140, 3 white lights, so she'll finish the day with a good lift as she went 3 for 3 in the deads.
And you see, Brian, the enthusiasm on these lifters when they make their third attempt.
There's Josh Rohr.
Brief shot at the meet director extraordinaire doing math calculations to try and figure out where we're at. But you'll see the joy on these lifters' face, Brian, when they're hitting third attempt deadlifts, just because that is such a challenge, and you've been training in many cases for weeks, months, and years to get these goals.
Gretchen Patsios is good at 115. So she moves from 102.5 to 115. So we'll see Danielle Chapman on platform number 3 here in a moment. But right now, Christina Myers will make an attempt at 142.5. This is her final shot. She's good at 125, good at 137.5. Now looking to go to 142.5.
And you'll notice here, Brian, a wide stance sumo, and she has the feet flared out quite a bit. She's going to use a tremendous amount of hip strength. She should lock out easy, though. The benefit to that technique is it will be a little harder to get it off the floor, but you'll be able to lock out much easier.
So Myers is good at 142.5. Danielle Chapman connected just a moment ago at 120 on her second offering. Christy Llewellyn will be coming up on platform number 3 in just a moment, but right now we'll begin to look at Nicola Tucci. You see her off in the background. She is going to make a third attempt of 145. She's already on the board at 142.5.
And as opposed to what we just watched, a much narrower sumo.
So Tucci, 3 for 3 with her white lights. So she's on at 145. Christy Llewellyn, 127.5 offering. And Llewellyn, 2 out of 3 white lights there, so she's on platform number 3. With a lift at 127.5. Elise Smith will try to a second shot at 147.5 as she was not able to connect on her second opportunity. And it's not going to happen this time either. But she'll take 140 as her score in the deadlift.
This is an overhand. You see that there. You haven't seen that a lot in the female division. That's an overhand grip there on platform 3 for Alex Beasley. Good lift, good lockout.
So Beasley is good.
When you get that, when you get that overhand in, it really locks in your grip if you can hold and get it in the right position. It seems like she's got a lot more in her.
Jazzylyn Pepper, her final offering. 145 is her qualifying score right now. She made a second attempt at 155, didn't hit it. She'll try it this time.
This is a good fight, Brian. Let's see if she can lock it out. Got a little bit in front of her at the top.
So she'll have to settle for 145 as her deadlift score. As Katie Felton will come on here in just a second. Or she finished at 130 with her second deadlift. This is Nicole LaRue now at 130. LaRue not successful at 130. She'll have a third attempt coming up. Allison Weinberg will make an effort at 180 kilos. Listening in the background to Gino, 397 pounds.
Yeah, and she was impressive earlier. Remember, we saw her squat 314 with room to spare.
So she's 8 for 8 on the day, and this to end with a crescendo.
And this is a junior lifter, Brian. That means she's 23 years of age or younger, and this is for first place in the Women's Pro and $350. I'm sure that'll go a long way for a junior lifter. Oh, wow. I think that's going to be turned down for the bar going back down, but she actually locked out 396. That is one strong young woman.
So not able to finish up with a make. But if she does win $350 for a junior, you can imagine that's a ton of ramen noodles, that's for sure.
Yeah, that is good. When you're a junior lifter, that's like $3,500. Yeah, that was a great performance. We'll have to see how it holds up in the next group, but I tell you what, that's the first time I've seen her. I might have announced her at another meet before, but she really impressed me today.
Caitlin Cavan over on platform number 3. Her second attempt at 145, 3 white lights. So she's on the board there. She's 2 for 2 in the deadlift.
If you're friends or family with Allison, then please let her know. She's got a new fan. I'm a fan of her powerlifting, and I would request that if she has any interest, maybe she should join and pick up a little bit of weightlifting and see if she could do the 5-bar showdown next year, because with the talent she's demonstrated in the powerlifting, again, if she has any proficiency on weightlifting, I think she would be immediately a contender, Brian, for the Superwoman 2019 total. And $1,500. You talk about $350.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that check goes up to $1,500 if she wins the Superwoman next year. And who knows, with Josh making the progress, who knows, maybe it'll be $15,000 by next year.
More money, more ramen, that's for sure.
Wouldn't that be awesome? $15,000 to the Superwoman.
Rebecca Thomas, final attempt at 92 and a half. She's connected at 80 and 87 and a half. A 122 and a half subtotal. And she lays it down ever so gently. 3 white lights, so she will finish at 92 and a half. Platform number 2 has come to a close. So now everything on platform number 3. So back to one platform. The weightlifting side of this on platform number 1 has come to a pause. All eyes on platform number 3, where Jamie Kofer, who is connected at 105 and 110 respectively, will now try to make an attempt at 115.
And most significantly, Brian, we don't have to look at another bench press for at least another 3 hours, so that's nice.
Kofer, 3 for 3, so she finishes the day.
In full disclosure, when I competed, my bench was actually my best lift, so I'm really taking a shot at myself. But
so Kofer, after going 1 for 3 in the squat, finishes the last 6 lifts of the day 6 for 6. So a marked improvement.
That's not a common occurrence. That would be akin to bogeying 2 of your first 3 holes and then going out and maybe hitting 5 or 6 under the rest of the day. I mean, that's really showing a sign of her mental fortitude, because when you're 1 for 3 after the squat, you're not just physically beat down, you're mentally beat down. I mean, all your goals and your plans for the day have been shot. So to go 6 for 6 for the rest of the way, that's credit to her and whatever coaching staff she has in keeping her in the competition and mentally focused.
Gretchen Patsios, her final offering, 125. It's good. She's pumped, reasonably so. A little fist pump as she heads back to behind the curtain.
And a big smile, too. Another happy, satisfied 3rd attempt made on the deadlift.
Nicole LaRue will come on for her final attempt at 130. She missed at 130 earlier. A rare miss that we've seen today in the deadlift.
You know, I've heard people say, Brian, before, it's hard to have a bad day at the beach. You know, if you're at the beach, it's a good day. I would change that in powerlifting terms. It's hard to have a bad day when you make your 3rd deadlift. Kind of seems to smooth everything else out.
It does leave a better taste, that's for sure. And that will not happen, as Nicole LaRue will have to carry a 120 with her to wrap up her day. As we're getting toward the end of our day here, we've got just a little bit of action left as Christy Llewellyn.
Well, just to clarify, the end of the morning. We still have a whole afternoon of the Superwoman.
Do have an afternoon session, no doubt about it.
The Superwomen, the women who did the weightlifting this morning, will be on the platform in the power lifts.
And you've already had some early scout work done, so which speaks to your many capabilities. You can broadcast here with me as well as doing the early scouting to get just a little bit of a preview of what we'll see later on in the afternoon.
Yeah, one of the benefits to me being so scatterbrained and filled with a bunch of useless knowledge is occasionally I stumble into a nugget or two. So I do have that Megan Valentine, last year's Superwoman, and Holly Kimball, the runner-up, are both in the competition, and I saw them both successful complete lifts in the weight lift, so we will see at least the 2 of them. Hopefully maybe we've got a few other women looking to challenge them in the afternoon.
Danielle Chapman with 3 white lights at 132.5, so she's good. Now, if you had better marketing, what they could say is you have a wide array of talents and capabilities.
Yeah, I believe they call that a jack of all trades, master of none. So we will hope, and we were able to do this yesterday with the help of our expert director, Dr. Trey Cunningham, we will hope to have a score sheet of the Superwoman totals as they update. So every lift that takes place, Brian, we can actually say it'll move you into this, it'll move you into that. And it creates a lot of excitement because you're actually looking at that point on lifters having combined 5 disciplines together to put the Superwoman champion in $1,500. As you said, a whole lot of ramen noodles.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, to have those numbers in real time, to watch the leaderboard move up and down, adds to the drama of the event in and of itself.
Amen. That's what I'm all for. We need to keep people on the edge of their seat.
Katie Felton at 137.5, her final offering. See what the judges say. Certainly the weight was not a problem as she gets it. She's excited, so she's on the board at 137.5 as she went 3 for 3 in the deadlift.
You know, we're going to be competing with sports fans all over. I know you'd mentioned golf earlier, so I don't know if you've had a chance to check in, but I did see Tiger Woods, believe it or not, is tied for the lead at the British Open right now. He's actually
really
1 shot ahead. Jordan Spieth had dropped down a few shots. Now, that was as of about 40 minutes ago, so you know in golf a lot can change, and I believe he was about 8 holes in, so there's still quite a bit, and that course seems to be getting people at the end of the course, a lot of tough holes, so. But at least history could be made. It's not just Dennis Cornelius and Bonica Brown. Tiger winning a major title for the first time in over a decade. In fact, a little powerlifting trivia, the last major title he won was the day of the USAPL Nationals in Killeen, Texas. I believe it was 2006 or 2008. The reason why I know was after I finished lifting, I actually watched that with Johnny Graham and some of the lifters in a ballroom at the venue, and remember Tiger Woods winning what would then be, I believe it was the U.S. Open.
Caitlin Cavan coming on for her third attempt at 150 kilos. All of this happening on platform number 3.
I don't believe that's Caitlin. I believe that hasn't updated. Is that her? It is 150 kilos. Maybe that is her.
Caitlin Cavan out of Decatur, Georgia. 3 white lights. So she finishes a very solid morning session.
And you can see a whole host of smiles there. So Caitlin, you can see that she was being coached by Dicey Saylor, one of the top women's lifters in all the Southeast.
As we are now moving to the final flight of our morning session here, as we've got just a handful of lifters left. Ashley Leost will get her opener.
Very precise with her setup here. 303.
Yost carrying a subtotal of 225. She misses on the opener at 137.5. Deanna Gerdsmeyer will make an attempt, her opener at 150.
Now Deanna's gone 2 for 3 in the squat and the bench. Let's see how she looks on her opener deadlift. I believe if Deanna is on her game, she is upwards of nearing the 400 barrier, so a 330 opener should be not too much trouble for her. Very good tight upper back. A noticeable improvement in her technique.
3 white lights for Gerdsmeyer, so she's on at 150. So Gerdsmeyer with her first make.
Yeah, we'll give golf updates as we go. Tiger's officially got a 1-shot lead after 9 holes at the British Open over in Scotland.
The golf world is being rocked, and I'm missing all of it.
Well, but see, the question I have is on the broadcast, are they updating about Bonica and Dennis Cornelius? And, does ESPN do what we're doing? We're actually being able to keep the sports fans aware of all sports activities. I wonder if ESPN is staying on the ball.
I can tell you that Roshan on platform number 3 just connected at 157.5. So she came in with a 245 subtotal. With that, she now is up over 400. As Elizabeth Turner will now step up. She'll make her first offering at 165.
Elizabeth's one of the lifters that we've noted has been impressive today. I believe she's 5 for 6 going into the deadlift, and another successful lift. Talented young woman, athletic and very technically proficient. So you can see what we talked about, combining athletic ability and strength with technique to put her as one of the top lifters we've seen so far.
Elizabeth Turner out of Athens, Georgia, just up the road a little piece.
Have to figure she's a dog fan.
You'd have to figure that. Also, one of the great rock bands of the latter portion of the 20th century, REM, out of Athens, Georgia.
There you go. That's a trivia fact I didn't know. I'm assuming she's a dog fan only because if you live within the city limits of Athens, I think it's a requirement. You have to sign a contract. So I don't know that to be a fact. I just believe that to be true.
Trish Foote, 3 for 3 white lights there on her attempt at 165. As Milena Schaefer will come on 167.5 here from the Meadowcreek Arena in Norcross, Georgia. So we get toward the top of the noonday hour. Brian Rushing and Dr. Patrick Anderson here with you. So glad that you could join us. Want to thank Team Rohr Powerlifting as well as Williams Weightlifting USA for making all of this happen. As there's half of the bowl seating here in this arena has now departed and shifted to the other side down to platform number 3 is Schaefer with her first offering. Wow.
Yeah, you could say that again.
No big deal.
You could say that again backwards, Brian. Wow, that was amazing.
Schaefer made easy work of that 167.5. I don't know if it was intended this way, but we are certainly ending with a crescendo here on platform number 3 as it all comes down to the deadlifts.
Another update through 10 holes. Tiger still 1-shot lead, although he's got a pack of trailers. Beers like he's got 4 guys at 6 under, 1 shot. He's at 7 under, including Jordan Spieth, 1 shot back. So he's definitely going to have to earn the win. But much like Bonica Brown, when you're great, you're always great. And Bonica looking at a 5:01 opener, very wide grip in the sumo. Unusually wide grip and not a problem at all. Now, I believe the math that I was running in the back with Bonica is for her to hit a PR total, an all-time best total, she would need to deadlift 545 today. Based on what we just saw, I don't think that should be a problem. So we might be seeing a PR, which for a lifter of Bonica's caliber, understand what that means, Brian, is one of the best is very close to doing the best full meet performance she's ever done. So that's history in itself. When you're talking about the best, for them to exceed their best is even more impressive.
And we get to bring it to you this afternoon as part of day 2 of the 2018 5-bar Showdown. You see James Vang.
I almost feel guilty that we're getting paid the tens of thousands of dollars we are to bring this broadcast to you. We should really not be getting paid just to be able to see such world-class powerlifting.
Well, Dr. Anderson, I didn't want to bring that up, the overwhelmingly large sum of money that you're bringing in for your analysis this weekend.
I think there's talk of it exceeding $100,000 if I really perform well. So, of course, I'll have to fight Gino for that because he really earned it. Now, James Vang just obliterated his opener, and what we're going to need is to be able to try and keep track, which it will be a little difficult because I don't know if we're going to have Wilks available on our screen, but to see, is there a situation where Dennis and James are battling for the Wilks formula? So I'm going to do whatever we can to see if we can give you that update once we see Dennis's opener, because there could be a potential that come the final deadlift, $750 could be on the line. Dennis is probably going to need a big pull to be able to pull it out.
Vang's connected at 245 in the deadlift, and now Dennis Cornelius.
I would suspect this will be no problem at all. He pulled 749 yesterday. Of course, he is working on his, what would this be, his 16th lift between the last 2 days. 16th lift there, Brian. That's the 16th time he stepped on the platform in the past 2 days.
And comes up empty on the first attempt. And, you know, to sort of give maybe some comparison as to what this would be like, especially in today's day and time, Be like a pitcher in the major leagues going out throwing 6-7 innings and then coming back the next day and say, oh, you want 6 or 7 more? Well, here you go, whap, 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 strike after strike.
Yeah, and that would be a comparable because it's happened in the playoffs occasionally, although it's been rare. I believe Randy Johnson did it one time, but there have been baseball pitchers who in playoffs or World Series had to come out in a relief role in the next day or with just a day of rest. But, yeah, you're talking about world-class lifts. This isn't Dennis just coming out and doing a bench meet. He went world-class squat 2 days in a row, world-class bench. Now, in the deadlift, he did look like he was starting to run out of steam there, but all that means is that there is an element of him that is mortal. We can officially declare Dennis Cornelius is not a robot. He might be as strong as a machine, but there is some limits to even his capabilities.
Ashley Yost for her second attempt here in this final flight. 137 was her initial miss. She'll try to make amends for that here. And it looks like she may have done so. 3 white lights there, so she now makes amends for that miss at 137.5, so she's on the board.
And that's a big sigh of relief, Brian, because if you have to go up against it where your third deadlift is just to stay in the competition, that's not something that you ever want to experience. And unfortunately, we've seen that before, but it's nice that she got on the board. Now, Deanna right here, if you're a fan of Deanna's and looking out for her total, this is to keep her in 6th place in the pro heavyweight division in the Raw women's category. More importantly, this is 352. Based on what we saw earlier, I don't think this should be a problem. A little bit uneven though. Now see, that could be either a technical issue where she's not lining up even, but it could also be a structural issue. Sometimes lifters tend to have an imbalance in training, so we'll see if she's able to correct that, because if she goes up in weight, Brian, that will be more of a problem. The heavier weight when you get uneven tends to be a hindrance, and it's going to typically come back to bite you. So sometimes, though, it's just a matter of setting up a little bit more even. Maybe if you're off, when you're dealing with these big weights that they're lifting, Brian, if you're off by just a small amount, 1/4 of an inch, you're going to throw your leverages off, and one side of the bar is going to come up slower than the other.
Well, and I'm sure that if that is spotted by Deanna Gertzmeyer during the lift, I'm sure they're probably going back behind the curtain, at least talking about how to correct that for the next lift.
Well, yeah, and her husband, Mark, is her coach and a power lifter, and so it would be interesting to see if they were able to catch that. Sometimes as a lifter, you don't see it as well as the coach, but sometimes lifters can feel it. So we'll see if she was able to catch that. I thought I noticed a little bit on the opener, so it could more be a situation where it's just structural and there's not a lot she can do on short term. She'd have to work on it in the training leading up to her next contest.
Raina Roshan with 3 white lights there at 162.5, so she improves her number.
And she's actually in 2nd place, so it shows where that formula plays a big difference. She's one of the lighter totals in terms of what she's lifting, but she's actually in 2nd place for the money. Of course, I'm assuming that Bonika's probably got first wrapped up. I can't imagine with the formula even that anyone's going to touch that.
It'll be intriguing to see what Bonika Brown does the rest of the way.
Yeah, looking ahead, it'll be interesting to see, does she go for her PR on her 2nd deadlift, or does she take a smaller jump and then go for it all? Now, this lifter I had talked about earlier, she is 6 for 7, so she's been really impressive technically and strength-wise. And again, look at that performance, Brian, and you'll notice I'm a big fan of technique. That's just a really sound pull there. She stays tight. Keeps her upper back tight. The female lifters, that's a critical element. By the structure, biomechanically, the female lifters tend not to have as much upper body mass. And in the deadlift, although you might think it is just a lower body exercise, it's critical that you lock that upper back arch and be able to keep the chest up throughout the lift. And she's doing that very well, and it really looks like she's got more left in her on her 3rd attempt.
Well, and moreover, it looks like a confident lift because she's stepping to the bar, going about her business, knocking out the lift, and then just stepping away from the bar. It seems like there's absolutely zero wasted movement from the time she approaches the bar to the time she goes back behind the screen.
Yeah, while I've become a fan of her lifting, it is a little bit hard for me to watch because she makes it look so easy. Kind of hurts my ego a little bit. She's making it look like this is an easy sport. Now you'll notice the wide stance. You're almost touching the plates here from Elena. No problem. That's 402 there, Brian. I don't know if they're sitting all weekend. If I could stand up as fast as she just stood up with 402.
Well, it seems like that the greatest difficulty she was going to run into was possibly dropping a plate on her foot.
Yeah, actually that's not far off. She was so close. The only hindrance would be to make sure she doesn't set it on her foot.
So as long as she lands the dismount, I guess everything's good.
Yeah, you would not want to set 402 on your foot. I can imagine that wouldn't feel good.
Trish Foote, speaking of which, with an attempt of 185 on her second offering, connected at 165 just a moment ago.
And you'll notice a much narrower sumo stance, but a strong transition. Looks like she got that lift. It was slow off the floor, Brian. But that's a good finish, and she is happy. Now, that's her second attempt. So on her third, it'll be a challenge to see is she going to be able to get it moving enough because the lockout appears to be there.
And one of the more animated finishes off the platform that we've seen out of any of the athletes today.
So Bonika's got 529, so this would not give her a PR total, but it certainly would put her very close. I can do a little bit of math. This would give her 665. I believe she would need 672. So she's going to need another 15 pounds. So let's watch this lift and imagine, does she have another 15 in her to go for a PR total? And can we see Bonica, one of the best lifters of all time and certainly the best female lifter in her weight class in the world right now, is she in a position to actually even have the greatest day for the greatest woman's lifter in this weight class? And let me tell you there, Brian, she actually locked that out with acceleration. So there wasn't actually even a sticking point. She was picking up the pace. I think there's a lot more than 15 pounds in her. I assume she'll just go for the PR total, but who knows? Maybe 551, 556 might be there.
That just looked simplistic.
Well,
it really did.
Unfortunately, as I said earlier, it makes the rest of us mortals a little bit humble because she makes it look easy, but that's the greatness. You're really watching, we were talking earlier about golf and Tiger Woods, and we used the Michael Jordan reference. You're talking about one of the best female powerlifters who's ever lived. And I consider myself an aficionado and a bit of a historian. And, yeah, Bonica's really one of the best of all time. And currently today, flat out, she is the best women's lifter in her weight class in the world. So we're seeing really the best of the best in this competition, and she's performing at a high level. 8 for 8 so far. Now, how about James Vang? This is 567. And this is to stay in first place. Now, I think that's going to be borderline on lockout. Let's see what the judges say. I would say no lift, and it is no lift.
And it's almost like he kind of knew it.
But now what it'll be is, Dennis, is he in any position where he has to hit this lift to get on the board, but is he in any position if he actually is able to hit a third attempt to even challenge James? That's going to be the question. I suspect it would be a huge jump. And again, I wouldn't put anything past Dennis, but he actually showed for the first time a little bit of signs of the fatigue of, this is his 17th time on the platform in just over 24 hours, Brian. 17 world-class lifts.
And I would imagine this lift will tell a lot of everything going on the rest of the way for him.
Yeah, who knows? He might even pass his third depending on how this looks. And that's why he's Dennis Cornelius, because here I am burying him and shoveling sand on top of him, and what does he do? He smokes 672. And as they said earlier in the post, another example of why Dr. Anderson is a complete idiot. Why do we allow him on the broadcast? He really doesn't know much about powerlifting. In my defense, as I said, Dennis might not be mortal. He seems like a human being. He's certainly a very nice guy, but he does things that seem Superman-esque. And forgive the term, because he's not in the Superman competition, but maybe he should be. That was his 17th lift in the last 2 days, and he just smoked 672. I don't know if people really realize how amazing that is.
Well, make no mistake about it. For those that are not into this world, not into this element, it's very hard for them to understand what this translates to. But for anybody that spent any amount of time in a gym trying to lift weights and everything, you start throwing out these numbers and the toll that it takes on the body and the stamina and the ability and the acumen that these folks have both technically and physically says a lot about what it is that they're doing if you've got even a modicum of understanding of what's happening here.
Well, I guess the way I would compare it, since we're in Georgia and we already talked about the Bulldogs, and I'm a big college football fan, if you took Georgia after beating Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl in overtime and the next day you lined them up against Alabama and had them play the national championship game, we would all consider that, unfathomable. Nobody would even picture that was possible, and yet that's what Dennis is doing, is competing at a world-class elite level 24 hours after he just did the same thing.
And don't look now, Ashley Yost just knocked out 150 kilos on her final lift of the day, so she goes back-to-back, getting a 137 on a redo after missing 137 and then jumping up to 150. Now you've got Deanna Gerdsmeyer going to 162.5 on this final lift of her day.
So here's what we need to see, is she able to get it more even coming up, because the strength appears to be there, but it was lagging on the left side. So let's see if we notice if that's a little bit lagging, but a better lockout. It almost looked like here, Brian, she still was lagging, but she just locked it in and just trusted her technique. I would actually say she might have had a little more left in her. So congratulations, that's a decent finish there. She ended up going 7 for 9 with a third miss in the squat and a third miss in the bench. But like I said, making 3 pulls kind of seems to knock off any of the negatives of the afternoon. And now we're up to one of my favorite lifters, but it's a little bit of an up and down situation for me, because here I'm a fan of her performance, but she makes it look so easy. It's a little bit humbling, and really, to be quite honest, she's been one of the more impressive lifters in terms of performance and technique. This is for 3rd place. So you're talking about in the overall pro division, 3rd place for Elizabeth Turner. I think she might have this, Brian. Can she hold on? That's a good lockout. Yeah, that's just a very talented athlete right there. She's clearly strong. Of course, to be at this level, you've got to be strong. You're talking a 380-pound deadlift, but more than that, Brian, just very proficient in her technique and the, if for lack of a better word, guts on finishing out a tough 3rd deadlift after a long day, Brian. This is when you run out of gas, and Elizabeth just didn't.
So Elizabeth Turner, 172.5 is where she'll place her deadlift total. So Renee Roshan, 172.5 for her final opportunity. If she nails this, she will remain in 2nd place. A very determined look on Roshan's face here. And can't do it. So with that there,
just 4 pulls left for the morning session, and all world-class lifters.
Elena Schaefer, who connected at 167.5, 182.5, will now make an attempt of 190. As we continue on here, I want to thank our sponsors who have been a part of this event: SBD Apparel, Roswell Barbell, Elite Iron Sports Performance, New Care Physical Therapy, and Active Care Atlanta Chiropractic. Schaefer will step to the bar.
We discussed earlier, she has no problem lifting the bar. It's really going to come down to, can she stay in that tight position and, as you said, not set the bar on her foot on the way back down. It's also interesting just noticing the different techniques, because look at how wide her stance is versus some of the narrower stance, and I think that's a good lift, Brian.
Melena Schaefer Cannot get it to go.
Now that's interesting. From where we were, I wonder what the call was.
She missed on the wings. The central official called the lift good.
I think maybe they said her knees weren't locked. See, where we are, we're a good 70 feet, 75 feet away. It's very difficult to see that. From the front angle that you're watching at home, that appeared like a good lift to me. But if you've been at powerlifting meets before, that's why we have 3 judges, is the view from the front is a different angle and can give you different representation than from the side. Now let's check here. This is what I said earlier. This is for a PR total. So the best of the best is actually looking to put her best performance together. This would be the highest total that she's ever done raw in her entire career. I believe if I do the math, this would be upwards of 1488, 1489. Closing in on a 1,500-pound total.
Out of Boys Town, Nebraska.
And no problem on the lockout. Let's see what the judges say. But I think that was a good lift.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow is all we can say. So here's what Bonica did. 9 for 9, 600 squat. Historic raw squat. A world record exceeding bench, 336. And then a 551 deadlift for a 1488 total. Yeah, it's just hard to imagine what we just witnessed, but it's one of the best performances in powerlifting history and the best performance from an all-time great. So you saw Bonica Brown at her absolute best.
You're watching the elites performing at the elite level.
Yeah, and that's really the best way to put it, is you're not just seeing great lifter come in and just hit big lifts, because Bonica could come in and hit, shattering totals that would blow the doors off this room without even pushing herself. If she'd have just done her openers today, she would have won the competition, and she would have still put together a great total. But she not only hit big lift after big lift, she exceeded the best she's ever done. And that says a lot because, as I said, she's got a resume that's a mile long. Now let's see what James Vang's got going. This is to stay in first place, 567. This is to win $750 of Josh Rohr's money. Let's see what the judges say. He got it all the way up, and he got that one passed. Now, will Dennis actually go for the win? Because 330 is what's on the bar, but this is not going to be enough for the win unless he changes it. There is a change, so what I believe he's doing is going for the win, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen. We've actually got it for you. 347.5 kilos will be for the win on formula, 766. Now, Dennis pulled 749 yesterday, and between the time he pulled 749, he's done a 903 squat and tried 925. He's benched what did he bench today? 562. And now he's actually he missed 562. Now he's actually headed for 15 pounds more in the deadlift. I'll go so far as to say, if Dennis does this, he's even more superhuman than I expected. So let's put your hands together. If you're at home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Kate and Ava, Megan, let's see if Dennis Cornelius, Superman extraordinaire, can pull 766 for the win. It's really going to be a tough lift, but if anyone can do it, it's Dennis. Let's see if he can get a good start position. He's got it moving. He might have it. It's a little bit in front of him, and that is no lift, but he gave it an amazing run. And you know what you have to figure, Brian, and not that Dennis would ever think this way, but if he wouldn't have pulled 749 yesterday, if he wouldn't have gone all out in the deadlift, maybe 766 would have gone today. You never know. Not to mention, he was competing without the aid of a bench shirt. He almost beat James Vang and never put a bench shirt on.
And with that, James Vang wins the competition between himself and Dennis Cornelius as we're here at the broadcast location. Brian Rushing along with the Dr. Patrick Anderson as we come to a close of our morning session here of day 2 of the 2018 5-bar Showdown. Dr. Anderson, final thoughts of what we've seen this morning.
Amazing, unbelievable. Bonica clearly the star of the show, 9 for 9. As we said, PR, her best total that she's ever done. But we saw great performances. James Vang, congratulations. I mean, he took down Dennis Cornelius, who nobody would have thought possible. Granted, Dennis did lift yesterday, didn't put a bench shirt on today, but give credit to James Vang because ultimately he did what he had to do. He hit a 440 bench, came back and hit a third pull. That third pull pushed Dennis to having to hit Dennis's third pull. You'd have to figure if James wouldn't have gotten that, Dennis would have been able to pull enough. And then across the board throughout the competition, we saw some amazing lifts. Elizabeth Turner was impressed us. Allison earlier in the earlier women's classes. So great lifts across the board. And all I can say is get your popcorn ready there, Brian, because we got the Superwoman total coming up shortly.
It's going to be a phenomenal afternoon, as that will be the final session here that we have inside the Meadowcreek Arena here in Norcross, Georgia. It's been a phenomenal morning. A lot of stars have been seen. We'll see more coming up this afternoon, as we'll be back with you in just a little bit of time. For the doctor, Patrick Anderson, this is Brian Rushing, thanking you for tuning in to the 5 Bar Showdown. We'll see you here in just a little while.